What's up, gamers? It is I, the People's Machine, coming back to you with another exciting episode of the Gaming Roundtable on this day in August, which I believe it is the 12th. And with me sitting here at the round table, another fellow knight, gaming guy himself, the administrator and the undertaker of the Unpaid Gamers, which I am a part of. And I really appreciate him joining today on this episode of Gaming Roundtable. This is Table Talk. We've got some stuff to talk about for a little bit for y'all. And hey, man, welcome back to the show.
Thanks.
So, what has been going on in your neck of the woods on the video game end? Are you streaming anything lately? Have you been doing any car thoughts or anything going on your end? And also, what you been playing, man? What you been playing, sitting down and messing with?
Well, I haven't been streaming anything.
Okay.
So nothing there. As far as what I'm playing, I was into Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of taking up most of my time. Was exploring that, trying to make it through the story and stuff. They just released the seasonal content, but haven't really messed with that.
Mm-hmm.
So mostly Diablo. I did jump into No Man's Sky again.
Yes.
Randomly, which I haven't played that since a few updates ago, and I haven't actually played the PS5 version.
Yes.
At all. So kind of just starting over with that and messing around with that world. But that's really mostly it. Done a little bit of PC gaming, surprisingly, and I don't know, more or less just kind of here and there. Everything's coming out in October and September, so
yeah.
Mostly just dealing with life stuff and ready for that to hit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time, I guess.
I know in October is always a bad month, and affectionately, we refer to it as Broketober because it seems like everything comes out in October. September is Broketember, and it's like those couple months. I mean, I know that a lot of stuff comes out around that time, but it seems like every month something comes out, but like in particular is when they really try to push those holiday sales. So like if you're out there and you're trying to like get some games, there's a lot of good that gets released, so it's a tough call on what to buy, what to play, what you might want or need. And it's just one of those things where I know a couple years ago it was like 5 or 6 things just boom, 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 back to back, and you're just like, man, are you kidding me? Like, you gotta get a second job just to keep up, And but no, there is some good stuff. There's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. I've got a lot of stuff on my wish list. Whether I buy or not, it just depends, how that goes down. So yeah, there's that's going on there. I personally, with my beautiful fiance, we finally are getting a house, and there's a lot of work involved with that. You know how that is. So our first home, and going back to my hometown. So it's gonna be nice, a welcome change to get out of the renters game, and so that's going to take some time. She's been doing packing, and she took a lot of point on the loan and different things, dealing with on that end. So I'm very grateful for her to be dealing with all that, and so I'm very grateful for that. So she's awesome. She's literally the best thing I could ask for in my life. So I love her dearly. So thank you, Desiree. And but anyway, so we got that coming up. Also, we are rolling in mid-August, and September, like you said, is around the corner. And of course, right around the corner after that is, of course, the Gaming Roundtable's 31 days of the Halloween Spooktacular coming up. So I will be doing that again this year. So I think that's my annual thing. So I'm excited to be playing some horror games again. And horror games, no horror games, and we'll see what that's all about. And got a couple things to throw out you real quick. Let's get your thoughts on one of the big elephants in the room is Microsoft's acquisition of Activision. How do you feel about that, and how do you think that will impact gaming later on down the road, like in the long term, and what do you think is the immediate short-term impact?
Well, we've talked about it. We've talked about it before a little bit. Many months later, looks like it's finally going through. I'd like to see him just kind of wrap it up. Short-term effects, I think what we'll see out of it short term is things that we've kind of already started to see gearing up. Like, I think you're going to see the Call of Duty show up on Game Pass. The prior ones, there's already been they've managed to reactivate the servers for classic Call of Duties, which has seen, those player bases jump back up again.
No, I heard that.
Yeah, so, things like that. I think we'll start to see some announcements or revivals or new ports of a lot of old Activision franchises, which I think that's really exciting because, there's a long list of Activision titles that have kind of been forgotten over the years.
That's true.
A lot of great things. So, Phil Spencer, that's his name, right? The Xbox dude, Phil Spencer.
Phil Spencer, that's his name.
He's talked about wanting to see the revival of franchises and stuff that, from that back catalog. So I think we'll see that. I think it's also going to. There's a commitment, of course, to kind of keep things multi-platform. But, there's going to start to see a lot of pressure from Sony, to kind of their response. So long term, I think there's going to be things to come with that. But I feel like once we kind of start seeing some of that stuff on Microsoft's end, we're going to see a response from Sony.
Yeah.
Because I think they're kind of butthurt about it right now.
Well, I know that I had read initially Sony was concerned about Activision basically, and I can't believe they even accused them of this, but they did more or less saying, well, you'll put, COD on our systems and you'll intentionally make it run poorly. And I'm like, that, and something along that lines. I'm like, well, first, they're not going to do that because that just hurts their business. Yeah, there's no basis for that, which I think is just there's knock at Microsoft. And the other thing is, I never really thought for a moment that Activision being acquired by Microsoft, they would just say, unless Microsoft really wanted to pony up a lot of money and shore up the Sony end and say, well, Call of Duty's only going to be on Xbox, because it's beneficial for them to also get that money, from the Sony side too, like to get money from the players buying the games and buying battle passes and whatever else is going on. So I never saw that being a deal. But I also believe, though, what Microsoft will end up doing, even if the Sony, it gets on this.
In the background there.
Yeah, that's Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight.
Torture chamber going on.
Yeah, no, or something else. What's going on is, I feel like there is going to be things like, okay, well, this Call of Duty's on the PlayStation 5, this is on the Series X or whatever, but if we have this special add-on or extra thing or some map that you can't get or something, right? It'll be something in the game that's exclusive to that version. I think that's what they'll end up doing. Personally, it's kind of like the whole Avengers, that came out, and Spider-Man was on the Sony version, but not, the Xbox version and things like that. I feel like they'll end up doing that at some point. That's my
Potentially.
take on it.
But yeah, potentially. I mean, I'm curious to see what kind of game they're going to play. Microsoft, Sony's the one that's always positioned themselves to get the extra stuff.
Typically.
And especially with Call of Duty, for many, many years, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why Sony's so butthurt about it, is because for many years it was always Sony and PlayStation kind of gets this, this DLC before Xbox does, or like, there was, I'm trying to recall specifics, but I know several of the Call of Duty iterations in more recent years, it was PlayStation got some stuff before it.
Yeah, typically, yeah, that's true. I remember. I think it was the maps and things like that.
Yeah, the map packs and stuff. Now, Microsoft is committed to 10 years to keep putting it on Sony, and there is definitely some truth to keeping it multi-platform. You kind of get, it helps them with that sense. But at the same time, Microsoft's not really hurting for money either.
No, they're not.
So, if there ever is a franchise that can go to a single platform and potentially be a console seller, that's Call of Duty.
True. I agree. They could even go as far as saying, hey, we're going to put Call of Duty out for the PlayStation, but we're going to put the Xbox version out, and the Sony one will come out 3 months from now. I mean, it's very potential.
Potentially,
yeah.
Or keep it up, because like everybody was worried about that when they bought Minecraft.
Yeah.
And they kept it multi-platform, yes, but Xbox, for a long time at least, always had the updated version.
Yeah, that's true. I think in the end, it'd be almost like if Sony, which they won't, but it would be like if Sony said, okay, well, you bought Activision, we're buying DICE. You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be like a pissing contest between the two? Well, we'll buy DICE, and now we have Battlefield. I mean, is it going to be like that? I don't think so. EA is too ingrained with DICE. So, and the one thing I will say about the deal is too, like Microsoft, they have some pretty. They have like iconic shooters. They have like Halo, COD's now, their baby, right? And PlayStation doesn't have a lot of just, hey, in-house we made a first person that everybody loves to play. It's not
shooters, no.
No, not in shooters. Yeah, God of War and things like that. So, but I also feel like that in the end, I think it's going to be mutual benefit because the interesting thing is, Microsoft owning Activision is if they sell, X units on the Sony, they still get a percentage of that. So it's this weird, like, Sony gets their money, but so does Microsoft. So it's an interesting, I think,
and Sony
interesting.
Doesn't tend to like that game, like they like to have all the exclusives and to not let anybody else have any.
Pretty much, yeah, that's true.
And they play that stuff in the court at all. Well, this is bad, but look at how many exclusives Sony has.
They have a lot.
It's way more than anything else.
Yes, that's true.
And if you look at really with Xbox, the things you can only play there, especially do you count PC or not, right? Most even exclusives now are on PC. But assuming you're just talking about consoles and not getting into PC, Gears of War, but there hasn't been a new one of those in a little bit.
Been a while.
Anything Halo.
Yeah.
The State of Decay stuff. Forza is the big one. But to be honest, that's kind of about it.
Yeah, they don't have a whole lot of just, this is only on Xbox, I mean, I know they had, like, the Xbox One's one of the launch titles was Recore, because they kind of built that in-house. That's only on there, but it didn't do well, so it's kind of like, they just don't have a lot. Sony has a lot more, you are correct with that. I think, also, with all the crap that went on Activision Blizzard on the employee end, where there was people that were, ousted for being, for harassment and different things going on, it being a big frat house. I'd almost also surmise that Microsoft will get in there and like clean house and be like, hey, we need new leadership, or we need this. So it wouldn't surprise me some of the old guard at Activision will be end up let go. Typically in a merger, that's how it goes, or an acquisition. People that they feel like you're not contributing or you're not. So there could be a shakeup on the business side and the employee like side, outside. So which could ultimately affect the games. It probably won't, but it's another one of those things. It's like, hey, we're going to come in here and we're going to cut some stuff. And let's face facts, COD is still a huge like selling game, but it's nowhere near the level it was like when the original Modern Warfare 2 came out, or the original 3 and so on. I mean, it's still a very big.
I agree with that.
I don't think it's as big because I know back.
I think it's bigger than ever, personally. I would have to. No, I think to people like us and who's more the old school gamers. I think we see Call of Duty with less integrity or less important in that sense. But I think the player base is bigger than it's ever been.
See, but I've never looked into that, like to say that. I know at one point, a couple of years back, a few years ago, it was like comparatively like from one title, and then a couple titles later, like the player base was down like 43%. So it was like some crazy number. But I think that was probably right around when they started doing like the 5 future games where you're running on walls and shooting laser beams, and they got Destiny like special abilities, and people were like, they were just borrowing elements from everybody else. Because a lot of people were like, well, 3's got elements, these specials, it's very similar to Destiny, and now that you're running on walls, and people really weren't happy with that direction. And I know World War II came out, and I played a lot of it, and it was more of the boots on the ground thing, but people still, why'd you make a hub for it, and you're walking around with your soldiers? Like, they tried, again, to emulate what other games at the time were doing. And I think with the Modern Combat remake or whatever a couple years ago, that kind of brought them back into more like, okay, we're not going to try to like do what the other shooters are doing, right? We're just going back to COD, and which is, I think, was a smart move on their end. And then of course, Modern Warfare 2 remaster. Call of Duty 2, Modern Warfare 2 has got 2 in the name twice, which is redundant. And now they just announced 3. They show the video with Markov and stuff, and Modern Warfare 3 is coming out. So you're like, they're just kind of revisiting with these new games. And that's another question I want to ask. Do you think they're going back to the old titles? Let's redo them. Let's remaster them. Let's new story. Either the same maps and redo the new. Let's take those old maps and update them. Do you think? Do you think they're doing that because they're like, okay, we want people to remember how awesome this was when or whatever, and that's what they're going for? Or do you think they're like, well, we're revisiting the old stuff because we don't really have much. We don't know what we're going to do as far as something like a real serious new entry, or what do you think?
Well, I think maybe it's a little bit of both. I think I think by going back to Modern Warfare stuff, because they're not really retelling the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're kind of cashing in on a little bit on the nostalgia stuff. I think.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's almost more of a tonal shift. Like, we're not going future. Like, everybody knows if you call it Modern Warfare now, like what to expect from it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think you're kind of given it's kind of more the spiritual successor in a sense, and you're by naming it that, you're preparing everybody for
Mm-hmm.
The type of Call of Duty that it's going to be.
Yes.
So just a little bit of housekeeping here. So so World War II, just to give a reference, that was 2017.
Oh, you mean the original World of War or World War II?
Or
World War seems older than
World War II.
Okay, World War II. Okay,
2017.
Gotcha.
So just kind of give a little bit of context. So in 2018, the player base for Call of Duty was 70 million.
That's a lot. Yeah. Wow.
Currently, it's 250 million.
Oh, so it's like the same level as Fortnite. Wow. That's amazing. I actually.
Substantially grown since then.
That's amazing.
You know, it's as I thought it's bigger than it's ever been. So, you know,
I stand corrected then. I stand corrected.
our perception is one thing, but you know, there's no doubt of how powerful of a franchise it is.
Mm-hmm. Now that could be real quick, and then add that bolstered those numbers because they are revisiting COD favorites, the modern combat, Modern Warfare series.
There's a ton of, I don't know, you know, it's almost one of those things. Like, you see so many streamers, you see so many whatever, you know, people are talking about it, love it, hate it, whatever, but they're playing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, people can complain about the NBA 2Ks and the Maddens and all this stuff, but they still play it.
No, they still buy it. Yeah.
Like that's what Call of Duty is, because you know you hear the new Call of Duty announcement, just like all these, same game as last year, whatever. But yet more people are buying it, more people are playing it than ever before.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's just remained one of the best shooters out there. Still, you know, it's still one of the top Twitch shooter type of experiences. They pour a ton of money into it. You know, you got like 7 studios working on each one.
No, it's crazy.
Handling parts of it, but I mean, you know, it's like it's a well-oiled machine, really.
Yeah.
If it were me, I would, like, I know there's more intent behind this deal than kind of just Call of Duty, right? Like, I know, you know, that King mobile games and stuff is in there. I know they want to focus more on the cloud gaming side of things and take a lot of those resources, and that's a lot of speculation on what this deal is really about, the cloud gaming stuff that they're moving into. And it makes sense because, you know, with what they've done with Game Pass, they want to pad at that Game Pass kind of thing. But, you know, they can say what all they want, but Call of Duty's in the mix, whether they want to admit it or not.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's arguably their biggest game.
Yeah, if it were me, I would split that player base, and after that 10-year deal, make it Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, that would be.
You're gonna lose money, you're gonna lose numbers, but you're gonna move systems, and like, you know, you could potentially license it through Xbox Cloud Gaming, so where you could play that on any system if they move to that type of direction.
Yeah,
you have to go through them to do it. But you know, Call of Duty is going to be one of those franchises forever. It seems. That people will always go to for that shooter. And
I agree. I agree.
Think moving it to an exclusive is very risky in a sense, but yet, unless there's a viable alternative, then it's got potential to get people to jump to Xbox more than PlayStation. You know, there's some people that's all they play is that competitive stuff, the sports games. You know, you can get those multi-platform. So, you know, you got potential to steal some audience there.
Yeah, you do. You do have potential.
It could be a bad move, but at the same time, though, Microsoft has played it very safe with the console wars. So
this is true. I agree because I feel like
I think they need a big move.
Yeah, that was a big move on their part.
Why keep doing it? You know?
Because I feel like that. I know Sony more or less dominated. The last. They use Gen for everything, but the last gen PS4, whatever, and then the 5 comes out. Xbox Series X is out, and it's just this. You know, it's always. I think it's more the gamers pitting them together against each other than anything, but it's still there. They compete because they want that business, and I think
they say whatever they want. If there was no competition, they wouldn't buy up other studios.
Yeah, they wouldn't buy studios, and I think though it could potentially again get to a point where Sony's like, well, they bought Activision, and we're going to buy this. Oh yeah, well then we're going to buy this. Oh yeah, well then we're going to buy. So it could turn into, because Microsoft acquired Bethesda, and that gives them access to Doom and all that other stuff, Starfield, the whole 9 yards. And, No Man's Sky at one point was an exclusive thing, and then now it's on all the systems, and it's like, I won't be able to play Starfield. And I've looked into it, and I'm like, man, that's going to be cool. But it's like at the same time, I was like, but I've also had No Man's Sky forever, and it's like, it's different, but it's similar. So it's like, and I've got, me, I've got about every space game there is, from Elite to Chorus to, any of those type of games. I love Rebel Galaxy. I mean, they're all great. So at the same time, I think Microsoft acquiring certain studios, and Sony, they have, Santa Monica's theirs, and that's their in-house, and so it could very well get into where Sony's will say, well, if they bought them, let's see who else might be up for sale, right? And Sony could buy somebody, and I don't think they're
do that.
No.
I think Xbox is going to start losing some multi-platform games that are potentially, licensed over and stuff.
That could be. That's very true.
I think it's kind of. I feel like this is going to be the start of a new console war.
Yeah, I think so.
A new stage of it, I guess.
I think so. No, yeah, I think so. I think it's going to get to that point where it's going to be, man, I'm going to go with Microsoft. And I still think potentially it will be role reversal, and they'll say, hey, if Call of Duty, and this Call of Duty is available on both systems, but we have these 5 maps that will come to Sony 5 months from now. They're going to just reverse it, and I think that's what's going to happen.
They can do that, but the Call of Duty player base is pretty loyal.
Yeah.
Somewhat. The Bethesda stuff is very loyal.
Mm-hmm.
Right now everybody's kind of playing nice, and there's existing deals and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was a point with the Xbox One generation where Xbox screwed up, and they're like, okay, we suck.
No.
Do something different. Phil Spencer stepped in, and that's why we've seen so much with the Xbox Series and some of these moves now. Was his intent was to come in and play the game, right?
Yeah.
Play it to that level, because he said, this Xbox One generation was a failure. They was kind of non-showing up to the console market.
Yeah.
And this was kind of their last hurrah to really see if they're going to stay in the console thing or not. So
yeah.
I kind of feel like at some point they're going to go broke, go big, go broke kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if I were them, I would take that risk of potentially killing Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And make it to Xbox, and then behind that you got, Elder Scrolls, you got Doom, you got Starfield if it's successful. You have, they've got lots of heavyweight things to really sell a console. And, I don't feel like the days of console exclusivity is over. I think, if we still see it. People try to pretend it's not there to some degree, and to some ways it's not, because the PC market's a third, a mix of Nintendo complicates things. But again, in order to stay in the console market, Xbox is going to have to start making better moves eventually.
That's true. No, I agree.
See that, and it's going to make it tough for the consumer.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially
I agree.
If you just own one system or the other.
That's true, because I'm own one. That's what I have, and no intention of getting anything else. So it's another one of those oddball things that. But I will say this, and even though a lot of the titles do end up on the Xbox, Sony is very Japan centric. So they get pretty much every single anime game, every single Japanese game, every single, you know what I mean? Get them. Xbox does too, but Xbox is not known for that, even though they have the same titles. It's more so sometimes you get these weird, oddball, niche Asian titles that are just there on the Sony, and you're like, oh, what's that? That's crazy, and so it's interesting to me that when I think about it, I'm like, yeah, Dragon Ball games are on that, and the Naruto games are on the Xbox, and they're all there. But you don't, they're not so much at the forefront, and Sony's very big on like, hey, all these anime games, every single thing, right? So it's there. That's really interesting to me.
Even
That
though they chose to censor them now.
yeah, I know. It's just that's another thing. It's a whole other can of worms. Where Nintendo's like, yeah, we don't do that. But no, you're
Xbox
right.
Doesn't either. So,
Yeah, so it's really weird
people
that
pay attention, and Sony isn't careful. They're gonna start seeing some of that divide again.
yeah, they are. They are. They definitely are. And I think that they historically had never done that before. And because the PS4 was such a huge success, it was the later last couple years you started seeing that, and I think it's more people have this and we don't want this, and you know what? That's a bad move because Nintendo forever historically was like, we censor everything, and then they were like, you know what? We're just done with that. We don't care, and it's helped them. And they're sitting on the sidelines, but good God, the Switch is massive. It's a huge success for them, and it's made them crazy money again, and without them competing with anybody at all. You know, they don't even have Call of Duty on their system. They're like, meh, whatever. You know, they don't care. And I mean, they've got.
We'll see that. I think that will show up now.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I don't think it can really run it by itself, but I think we'll see it in the form of cloud gaming.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because there's a couple like Dying Light 2's on the Switch. It's cloud. Control is cloud based, and I think that's interesting that they're really trying to get into that, and that's the new way of gaming anyway. But no, I wanted to get your thoughts on that because you, over the years, have pretty much. And I don't know if you still do, but as far as I know, you pretty much historically bought every COD that's come out. Me, I got the last 4 CODs for free, so I haven't really spent any money on it, you know. So it ends up on PS Plus eventually. Seems like not too long after it comes out. I don't know why that is.
That's gonna stop.
That's going to stop. Yeah. So yeah,
you'll see it on Game Pass though.
Yeah, you'll see it on Game Pass. But that's interesting, and I think, like I said, the dynamic is changed. That's them kind of shooting out the first salvo, and we'll see what Sony's response is ultimately. But like you right now, you said everybody's playing nice, trying to see what's going on, and I guess that's the best way.
And I think they're mostly playing nice because they're trying to get that deal to go through.
Yeah, they are. That's what they're doing. Yeah.
Okay, no. We'll do this. And while Microsoft has a history of somewhat playing nice, they do have their best interest in mind. And that's what needs to keep in mind. And while I have bought most Call of Duties, I've skipped out on several for, at launch, or, I'll come back and kind of just add them to my collection. I typically do jump on the Modern Warfare ones because I like the setting and the style. Even though it's different games and not necessarily a remake or or anything, it's I like the world they kind of throw you in. So I do kind of stay on those, but still, with that, now it doesn't have to be that for me because I own both systems or all systems, whatever.
Yeah, so you're good to go.
But it wouldn't be enough to sell a console for me, even if it was exclusive. I don't think, not that alone, but that, Doom, Elder Scrolls, Starfield, it's starting.
Yeah, it's starting to kind of, it is. It makes it more like,
case,
and
I think while some, id Software today is not the id Software of yesterday, right? And most studios have kind of evolved in that sense, but still, so many of today's interesting to me titles come through that Bethesda banner.
True.
I think they're one of the studios that they continue to kind of, push the landscape and stuff, even as just a publisher.
Yeah.
You'll see kind of more interesting titles come
through. Yeah.
So, that's a powerful weapon. I think that they've owned for a little bit now, and we haven't seen them really flex that muscle. But I think,
no, we haven't.
I also think they've tried to downplay that type of ownership because of this acquisition.
I think what hurt
Activision and all that.
Yeah.
You don't want to you don't want to give precedence of, oh, look what they did with this studio. You know?
Yeah, because you're not gonna, because you don't want to get into EA, which is like we buy a studio and then we basically just fire everybody, and then we end up just killing it. They've killed everybody. They killed Maxis. They killed BioWare. I mean, they just have. As a matter of fact, a completely different studio. Here's something that's not in the news, but it is news. Is that BioWare and EA, the license was Anthem's license was bought by another company, and they're bringing it back out and taking over the servers and changing things because BioWare's not working on it. EA doesn't want anything to do with it. They've just left the servers open to play, and another company has came in and bought Anthem. And so Anthem's going to come back out, apparently. So, yeah, it's really weird.
For a third time?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. So that's, and we don't have to get into that. I mean, I've put a lot of hours into that one, but I'm just saying that's an interesting news story. Let's talk about another game, and I'm going to get your take on it or how you feel about it. I think it's awesome that we are getting Rockstar publishing at the end of August soon, bringing back out the first Red Dead with the Undead Nightmare story. They say it's an expansion. It's really a whole other game, just with the zombie stuff, because I played through both. And there's a bunch of content there. And I think it's great, but everyone really is hating on the $50 price tag because they're thinking, why are you charging $50 for this game that y'all have made millions of dollars off of? It's old, remastered, or just enhanced, and you know why? And a lot of people was excited for it until they set the price point. Do you think 50 is too steep? And if you don't think it is, based on the content, because it is a lot of content, it's a lot, but it's not an online game. There's no like co-op stuff, so it's just solo play, which is kind of a rare thing nowadays. So do you think 50 was too steep? Because Rockstar's made $6 billion off of Grand Theft Auto. I mean, they don't really need the money. So do you think it's too much money, or do you think they should have done better by going $30 or?
No, I think short answer is yes, it's too steep. I think $30 would have been a better price.
Yeah.
Now, is it worth $50? Sure. I think there's a ton of content there, especially with the Undead Nightmare stuff.
Yeah.
It is, it's worth $50 by itself. But
it's essentially two games, because Undead Nightmare just does the story differently with zombies, but it's the same game world, but it's not like it wasn't like you put in Undead Nightmare and it was just like a 3-hour expansion. No, it was the whole game.
It was a big thing.
Yeah.
I just think you have to know what people are going to react to, and I think they should have known that people, and maybe they don't care what people say.
They probably don't.
And you'll buy it or not.
Yeah.
Rockstar, much like Nintendo, their games kind of hold their value long term.
But they do. So, I agree.
If you go buy GTA now, you're still going to pay for it.
Yeah. That's true. And it's in the top 10
precedents, for that. Again, there's a lot of value there. I don't know what people's expectations are when it comes to just straight ports or whatever, but it's not effortless. There's work involved in bringing it to this console. And
true.
If you haven't got to experience it, I mean, it's fair on one hand, but it is an older game. It's been out for a long time. I don't know. It seems.
Yeah, because I remember you playing it, which prompted me to buy it. I remember that. I watched you play it, and I used to just roll when you would sit at the bar and drink till the game wouldn't let you no more. You walk outside and just roll around and get hit, and then you do something and you put your hands up. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And you go to jail. Remember, you kept doing that over and over. That was, I mean, there's a lot of fun to be had in that game. It really is.
30, even 40, it's a little better, but you're pricing it at $50. I think it's too high. As much as it is worth that. in that sense, like I said, content and just how good of a game it is and everything.
Yeah.
It for sure is a $50 game, but
Yeah.
just with its age and it's been released before, people
Yeah.
just don't like it when it's when they price things that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is yeah, I don't think it's tone deaf. I know there's going to be the player base because a lot of people they loved Red Dead 2, but they hated they hated the online because they paywalled so much stuff behind
I hate
in Red
both
Dead
their
2.
onlines. I don't like either one of them.
Yeah, what GTA?
Oh, sorry, both Red Dead Online.
Oh yeah, Red Dead's online. The first one really wasn't much to it, and then the second one was just paywalled. It was like, wait a minute, now in the GTA Online, made by the same people, you could pretty much do everything as long as you had the in-game cash, which you can just earn and get a lot of it. And then this one was like, oh, you need gold, and if you want to bounty hunter, be a sheriff, or you want to do this, it costs you barely earned any gold in the game, so it was just very bad as they jumped in on that monetization like everybody else was doing at the time. And like, even though I have occasionally gone back to it just to see improvements or not, it's just they haven't. They're not really doing. I just don't like it. Like the actual single player stuff is amazing, but like the story amazing, but like the online's just like me. I just don't.
Yeah, and
I just
think
can't.
with the success of how they monetize, GTA Online and how big that is, and selling those shark cards like nobody's business. You would
No,
think that
no.
would kind of subsidize some of the stuff, and we would get
Yeah.
a cheaper single player release. But I almost think it had the opposite effect. It's like it's gave them a window of people may not like it, but they'll pay it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's true. I think that's true. I think it's, in some ways, if you look at it from a business standpoint, they know that people really loved that game, and they know that people really loved the Nightmare, and and it's a lot of content, a lot of hours, and, they're probably looking at like, well, we're 50, it's like 25 for one and 25 for the other, essentially, and it's, in a business sense, they know it's going to sell. But I'm with you. I think 30 would have been a better price point, and even because I think the volume of it being sold for 30 would shore it up in the end. And the other thing too is, yeah, I mean, and I could foresee them too. Like, it comes out and 6 months later, it's on a sale for $20, right?
Yeah.
So, which is what I would.
And people complain, but yet they still buy. And
yeah.
It's probably just people doing it to themselves. You can't just pour water on any little thing that GTA puts out, and then be surprised when they try to cash in with certain things.
I think the gaming mentality, and I can't speak for everybody. I've never had the mentality of like, oh well, I've got to get it because I'm going to miss out because that's what everybody else is playing. I'm like, well, I don't care. It's like, I think a lot of the percentage of the community is like, oh, that's the latest stuff, so I got to get it. It's like, and it's, for me, it's like there are titles that I don't want to miss out on. Anything Monster Hunter, obviously, and any Dynasty Warriors from Omega Force, obviously. So there's certain things, but other games I'm just like, well, I don't care if I don't get it at launch, But as far as this is concerned and the up in arm price point, I mean, like you said, it's always that. It's always like, well, I can't believe they fucking are charging this and that, this and that. Did you buy it? Sure did. It's like they didn't twist your arm. No one said they held a gun to your head. You could actually not buy it, And if you, let's just say you have an old 360 or PS3 sitting around with Red Dead, you just HDMI plug it in and play it. Do you need to have the, what I mean? So it's,
but it's convenient to have everything on one console, though. If it was cheaper, if it goes on sale, I'll probably add it to my library, even though I have the original sitting in there. It's such a good thing.
Now here's a question: do you know if it's on Game Pass? that, because you know they have old games on there, and do you know? I wonder if it's on Sony's PS Plus because they have like PS2, PS3, PS4 games. Xbox has got older games. I'm wondering if it's on
I
the
don't
play
think
for
it's on
free.
anything like that. I don't
Okay,
think so.
because that would be kind of like shooting themselves in the foot. Like, well, I could just play it on Game
Yeah,
Pass.
no, I
Yeah,
don't think so. I don't think so.
yeah.
But you know, the FOMO aspect of things. I mean, you know, I'm guilty of that, whether I like it or not. Um, you know, you have your statement there, which I think is halfway true for you, because you know you typically there are franchises that you really hold allegiance to, and it's not
Oh yeah.
your mainstream franchises, you know. But there's been examples for sure um, that you know you don't really want to explore or look into because you know you're not planning on getting it for a while. So, but
Yeah.
you know you want, so like you don't want to get excited about it if you're not going to get it. You know, so I know there's a little bit of that for you, and I
Yeah,
don't know, I
absolutely.
definitely do it because you know it when a new blockbuster game comes out, and if it's something I'm halfway interested in, you know, or even if not, you know, you see all of the content creators out there, and they're
Showing
showcasing
it.
it,
Yeah.
showcasing it, showcasing it, and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
watching like an endless trailer sometimes, and it's like, man, okay, maybe I'll give it a try, or
Yeah.
you know, okay, fine, you know, because
Yeah.
there's some games I've just bought because it's like I don't know, it gets shoved down your throat enough, and it's like, well, okay, fine, I'll play
I'll
that for
get
a little
it.
bit.
Yeah. I'll get it. Yeah. That makes sense.
So you know, whether we intentionally kind of do it or not, I think it's there, and
Yeah.
I think we all kind of have it as gamers. You know, I think it's inevitable. There's a little bit of
Hmm.
a addiction there for everybody, and
I'm sure. Yeah. Definitely. I agree. Now, here's another question. Now, I think in the last year or so, in recent, like last couple of years, I seem to be seeing a lot of old games being remastered, stuff that were really popular. And of course, a lot of I mean, God, an awful amount of live service games failed this year and last year. And it seems like companies are like, well, let's go back to these old games that sold well. Do you think that the game companies are not, and let's just throw out the money thing because they're going to get money for the old stuff that people love. And let's just throw it out like, do you think it's just like, hey, we can't, these new titles we're trying to come up with are not working and people are not buying them, they're not digging the new whatever. We'll put out the old games. And I mean, do you think that's good or do you think it's bad? Like it's harmful because they're like, well, we're not putting out new IP, like real brand new, never seen, you know what I mean? I mean, although all games are similar, because even that Forspoken game failed, and even though it had some interesting combat stuff, the studio closed, and
yeah,
that wasn't a live service. And of course, Avengers and Babylon's Fall, and even Microsoft's Redfall from Arcane, and it's like game after game after game that's new is failing, and we're seeing stuff like, oh well, here's Red Dead 1, here's redone old Call of Duty, here's Kingdom of Amalur that came out, here's, it's like you're seeing a lot of these, like, oh, these are kind of older games that came out 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, whatever. Do you think that it's good, or do you think it's bad in the sense that's like, well, I really would like to play something new, but nobody seems can get it right, So,
yeah.
I mean, how do you
Well,
feel?
I think it's good and bad both.
Yeah.
You know, and we've talked about this a little bit before too. You know, because there's always the gamble of where do you put your money and what do you bank on. You know,
Uh huh.
um, established franchises are a more safer bet than something completely new. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking a ton of money. Remasters and remakes, they play on the nostalgia for one, so there's a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of potential there to be successful. Um, I don't know. I think depending on your age demographic, you'll
Mm-hmm.
have a different take on it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's easy for us to say, well, why are you revisiting this stuff when, like we could hook up our old systems and play these games and stuff. But, a lot of the younger gamers don't have those old systems. And,
That's true.
you can track it down, but, there's the cartridge generation, the nostalgia platform, Super Nintendo, retro kind of things, right? There's a little bit of a resurgence in that, but it's not an infinite resource. So, those things only stay working for so long.
Yeah.
There are people that kind of refurbish those, or, you can track it down, but it is a tangible thing, and they get harder and harder to find, and, more expensive or whatever. So it's not always cost effective to try to procure those things if you didn't have them before.
Yeah.
So, it makes it a little bit difficult for some people to do it, to track
yes.
that stuff and kind of go that route.
Yes.
So there's some of those titles that if you didn't remaster them, you didn't bring them up to current generation, some people may never play them,
True.
For me, I have most games in general throughout time.
Yeah.
But, I don't always feel like digging this thing out, and even though it is just plugging in an HDMI,
Yeah.
I don't really. It's easier for me to just sit down and play what's in my catalog now.
True.
So a lot of those remasters and stuff, I'll just add to my library, and everything is kind of just in my rolling current generation of PlayStation titles.
Oh, and I have a bunch. I have a bunch. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just want your take to think like what.
So,
now, there's good things. What are some of the bad that you would say?
I mean, I think that's all the good part about it. I think the bad is if they lean into it too much, and that's what they rely on. Same way with movie remakes and stuff. At what point do you stop putting the creative energy out there and just relying on something that is already made, and you're kind of just cashing in? I mean, you're spending resources and time and effort to move that stuff, to port things over or to remaster it or whatever. So there's, they are doing a little bit of work.
Yeah.
But, at a certain point, it gets a little bit soulless too.
I think if I was an employee, I think my positive negative would be, the negative would be like, really? I worked on that 5 years ago. I got to work on it again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Really?
Yeah, you could try to break new ground and make Street Fighter 6, or you could continue to port Street Fighter 2 over and over. And over.
Which they did for ever.
Yeah, they do, and it's a worthy
6 is great.
that deserves to be. Speaking of like Street Fighter 2, it's a title that deserves to be kind of ingrained into video game history, and if you haven't played that, you need to experience it.
Yeah.
So keeping it on current generations at all times is a great thing.
Yeah.
But especially with these studios forming together and being bought up, and you're dealing with such large entities now.
Yeah.
You probably have enough resources to have one
definitely
remaster and remake, and one to kind of try to break new ground. So
unless you're Bethesda,
you got to do both.
Yeah. If you're Bethesda, you just put out Skyrim again, and for the 26th time, and which is insane.
To their credit, Todd Howard talked about it, and he said if you want us to see us stop doing that, stop buying it.
Yeah, don't buy it.
Because
but people still buy it.
Put it out, and people buy it on it because they want it on everything. So whose fault is that, really?
Yeah, it's really the consumer. It's really the consumer. Yeah, but it's a running gag at this point. It's a rib at this point. But it's funny because it's a game that when it came out in 2011, I sunk 300 hours into, and then it came out on the other systems. I didn't buy it new. I bought it sale, and I'm like, okay, let's put another 300 hours into it. And then, even though I would love for them to just do a Morrowind remake, but I'm not going to see that. But I just find it interesting that
the rumor is they're doing an Oblivion one, actually.
That'd be interesting. I get in on that. I think though, like you said, I agree with you. The good is that it helps people who may have never played that before. If you're not trying to have a 1500 HDMI selector switch, between everything you own and having all your game, a million games sitting in front of you, it's but I also know that it's that's the bad, like you said, is if they just constantly go to the well with that, and they're not trying to put out anything new, and you're like, because no offense to, I love the old stuff. I got a bunch of the remastered stuff. I think it's great. Because it's like, oh, that was a fun game. Or like Kingdom Amalur, you could literally play for 120 hours. And what made that enticing to buy, because it was $20, it didn't come out 20, but it went on sale for 20, is the fact they released and finished the unreleased expansion, like the whole nother everything. So that was never released. So that was one incentive to be like, oh crap, I can play the other content that I never got to play. It's kind of like the KOTOR remakes and things like that. It's like KOTOR 2, apparently, even though I remember playing from start to end, was actually an unfinished game. And so that's coming out with it complete with the stuff that they didn't get to add, and I'm like, that's incentive.
Actually, it's not, because they canceled that.
Did they cancel that? I didn't know they canceled that.
They canceled the last add-on
Oh.
of that unreleased content. Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's sad.
that part.
Well, that's sad. But it's coming out still, though, right?
The game's out. Yeah, the second.
Okay, I didn't even know it was out. Okay, because I know they were both ported to the Switch as is, like from the original. Like they're not remastered, not nothing. They're just, I have the first one on Switch. It looks exactly the way it looked, right?
Yeah,
so
the second one's on there too, and they plan to release that extra content, but they've since canceled it finally.
Oh, okay.
Because it was delayed forever.
Gotcha.
And I'm not sure the whole reasons.
But yeah, that's just something that
happens though with games for sure.
Yeah,
or there were things like I think it was the Star Wars Unleashed stuff or something. There was something like that, a console exclusive DLC or something. And then years later, now when they remaster it, they'll include it all. So yeah, you can finally play it all in its entirety.
Yeah.
So that is a thing for sure.
No, I agree. I agree on the good and bad. I think it's important because that to me is part of that game preservation thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, and it's nice to see that.
It doesn't speak to like the 2D retro era, but for the most part, in the 3D era, with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, you can play the vast majority of 3D era games. Still.
True. That's true.
Whether you buy them through the remaster thing, it's compatibility, whether it's you could still kind of play the vast majority of stuff with just those two. So I think that's an awesome thing. But yeah, if you lean into that too much, it's a bad deal.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's if that's all you're going to go to the well, and which is they could easily do because there's a blue million titles. There's a lot of titles that don't like. Not only is like the licensing gone, it's like the company that made it might be gone completely. So that's out there for the grabs. I mean, in case in point, Titan Quest came out and THQ Nordic bought it up and put it out, and that game is over 20 years old. And it's like they bought a bunch of these old $20, Commandos and weird old titles from back in the day, and started re-releasing them like with better resolution and different things and updates and expansions and whatnot that they made for it. So I find it like it's interesting that they're going like way back in time, right? So it's like but it's still to me game preservation, and I think that's a big deal because too much of the live service only online deal, there's just a slew of titles that you can't play, period, ever. So there's like videos of gameplay, and that's the closest you're going to get, from your Battleborn to your Babylon's Fall, that, 8 months after it came out, it was done, and you can't play it anymore. And
actually that list is pretty short.
It's short. It is short, but it's a shame because some of that stuff could have easily been set up like to also play offline, just the way, because of the structure and the nature of the game. And it's a shame that that's not the thing. I am happy that Avengers didn't close and it was done. I'm glad that they kept it open, and I got every single skin. I probably got 50 grand worth of skins for free. I got everything in the game. And weirdly enough, it's shutting down made it a better game, because everything, they have one currency now. There's no buyable currency. Everything you earn is in-game currency. So there's still like costumes and stuff that you can unlock. Even though you got all the stuff they had for free, there's still a bunch that was just in-house that you buy. And it's like, I can play it and it's like, well, this is how it probably should have been. This is actually pretty good. It's good now, but it had to like fail to be good. And that's crazy to think that, but like it's actually turned into a game that I absolutely love. It's a fun game to play, and it's better for it. But it is a shame that the potential was better.
Speaking of remakes and stuff, Quake 2's out now.
Yeah, I saw that. That's crazy. I knew they had done Quake 1 a while back, and it's neat to see. That Quake 2, and I had Quake 2 on the PlayStation 1, and I also had it on N64. And so I had both versions of that, and I think I got it on PC at one point, so it was like a kind of trifecta.
Same company that ported the first one ported this one over.
Quake 2, yeah.
They're doing really good things with those classic ports in that sense, like which has long been a breakdown of a lot of the ports and things. Quake 1, includes the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack in it.
Yeah.
And that was an issue for a lot of the ports. This Quake 2, they included both of the major DLC expansions with it.
Nice.
And they included the Quake 2 64 version is actually in there too.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Still continuing to support Doom and Doom 2 on the ports of that. Like they're still releasing like conversions and like whole campaigns and map packs and things like that.
That's interesting. I did not know that. So that's crazy. Yeah,
they're really doing some great things to support that. Which, Doom has been one of my favorite franchises of all time.
Yeah.
Since back in the day.
Yeah, I mean it's been around 30 years. I mean it's been around 3 decades or more.
With what they're doing with that, really kind of honors its legacy, because it was all about being able to be modded and expanded and stuff. And while you can't really have the same level of community modding with the console versions and stuff, I like that there's a path there to continue to.
There is. I think that's great. Yeah,
it's neat to me.
So I guess it is. I mean, there's a lot more I think good than probably bad for them going to the well like that. But you know what? That is an old franchise that's been around for so long and is still going on, Doom Eternal, and continues to be. I've only heard a little bit of love for Rage, because I love Rage. Rage 1 and 2 is great, but ID has their way of the way that they handle their shooters is just brilliant, and I'm always happy. I'm happy to hear that's a game that's been around for so long and still holds like that attention for so many people. It's really, really interesting.
Well, and that's the thing. We're old enough to have experienced it real time, but there's plenty of people that hasn't played the Quake games. I mean, my son, because there's really no modern Quake right now.
No, because the last Quake I played through was 4 on a 360. I bought it for practically nothing, like $3 or $4, and I played through it and generally enjoyed it. Even though at the time I believe, that it was definitely, Quake 4 was fun, but it definitely had the old school kind of like shooting vibes when more shooters were going modern, with different kinds of way it plays and feels. But I still liked playing through 4 and enjoyed it. And I also played on 360. I had Quake Enemy Territory, which I just absolutely loved, which was an asymmetrical shooter where you completed objectives and then you were done. And that later on, the people who made that, which was Splash Damage, made Brink, and I played way too much Brink and just loved it, and it was ahead of its time for a shooter. It does a lot of the stuff that shooters are doing now. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of Overwatch in Brink, and a lot of people don't realize that, but there is. Some of the missions are identical, and so from like take the little thing in Overwatch where you got to escort the vehicle very slowly to point A to point B. That was one of the game modes in Brink. It was the exact same thing. You made your character and you unlocked outfits and armor and different things, and you sort of created your own hero. So I would love to see Brink come back. But I know there was, if you played a lightweight body in that, you could run along the walls. That was one of the first shooters to do that. So yeah, I think Brink was ahead of its time, and people just weren't having it. So, but personally, I think that I'm glad though to see that Doom and stuff and those games are still being supported 35 years later.
Yeah.
So it's like insane.
Well, you know, if you haven't played it and stuff, they released it, and like, I mean, that Quake 2, you know, you could download it infinitely online for free for PC and stuff. You know, they priced it at $10 on the PlayStation Store. So,
that's pretty amazing. And like, you get a couple of versions,
right?
Yeah, that's very fair.
To check it, and you know, if you haven't experienced it, or for me, I mean, I have. You know, I can't tell you how many times I bought Doom and Quake and stuff over the years.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like on everything that I have. You know, sometimes I'll see a copy of it sitting at like a Goodwill or something, and I'll just pick it up because it's not getting the love it deserves. You know?
Yeah.
I have a couple disc versions of the PC game that I've just picked up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's cool to see, and it makes me feel nostalgic, and, you know, just kind of add it to a collection. But, you know, on the digital front, I'll buy them just to add them to my library.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, want to just load it up and not feel like go sit at my computer.
What's interesting,
system or something.
I had last year or the year before last, it was very cheap. They had a big sale on the Doom, like the ID sale. I got Doom 3 for like $4.99, and I was never played through 3. I remember you playing it. I remember they fixed the whole flashlight issue. But what I did not know until recently was that Doom 3 is a remake of Doom 1. I did not know that. Well, if you look at the description of the game on the store, that's what it basically says. It says it's Doom 1, just remade. I was like, that's weird. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was supposed to be a remake or like the retelling. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's more like a reboot for sure.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm glad and happy to hear that these games like that do deserve to be brought in because they are.
I feel like, especially with what we're seeing from Microsoft here, I feel like Quake is going to see a new iteration at some point soon. I think it's due for one, because you know they've brought Doom into the modern gaming world. You know, they brought Wolfenstein into the modern gaming world.
Wolfenstein.
Quake, you know, the last thing they did was the Quake Champions thing. You know, that was like 2017, I think. And it was, you know, PC, kind of just the multiplayer, like Quake 3 kind of arena setup. But I feel like, especially, you know, as they're doing these remasters for the Quake cons and they release them, you know, I'm sure they'll do a remaster of Quake 3 next. You know, we'll probably see a 4.
No, yeah, definitely.
But I feel like there's going to be a modern version of Quake coming up at some point.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be just a matter of time. Not if, but when. You know, kind of scenario with that. So, no, I just wanted to touch base on the trend towards older versus newer, because it does seem like new IP aside, it's like so much companies tried on this live service and just were losing their shirt on it.
So many new games suck.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say that.
I'd almost rather play old stuff than so many of these new
I mean,
games, you know?
you can go down the list, and if I was to say, I mean, as far as new games, stuff that's come out, you know, that I have decided to, you know, I'm going to pick this up. I'll see how it is. It's kind of like, I don't know. I wouldn't say I was burned, but I would say that it's weird how gravitating towards something that came out 5 years ago versus now, because so much of now is about that monetization. A lot of it's about like, hey, how can we get your money? And the game's coming out where it needs patched right away, or they're going to take forever to get it to where it needs to be. And it's just, modern gaming has that caveat. And so sometimes it's nice to be like, well, I just bought, like I said, Kino Hamler, a couple years ago, and I'm like, it ran perfectly fine. And there was no egregious microtransactions. It was just, here you go. You bought the game, it's fine. So I went back and recently for $10, I got Chorus, and I did a video on it. And Chorus is a gorgeous, like one of the best looking games I've ever seen on the PS5, and it's a good space game. And I was surprised that it was an open world type scenario and not, I thought it was just a straight dogfighting shooter, and it's not. And I was very surprised by it. It didn't apparently sell real well for whatever reason. And I was like, this game's great. Like, I cannot believe. But that came out like 3 years ago, like right around launch. And so I was like, and it's so good. And it's another one of those games, but I mean, of course, the nature of the game. But there's very few, it seems like to me, buying something brand spanking new out of the gate. Like, just, it came out today, and you're looking at it, it looks cool, but then part of me, I'm always kind of like, well, I might want to wait. I want to see how it is. I mean...
Well, that's the thing. So, there's a ton coming out here in September and October. We talked about that at first.
Mm-hmm.
The games that I'm committed to myself for buying, that's quite a few, because, I don't really...
Yeah.
If I'm interested, I'll get it. But if you look at really what I've chosen to commit to buying to, it's no surprise. Like, the September, it's going to be, I'll get the new NBA 2K, because I tend to always get that. And, you can say what you want about that. There's a few game choices with that on why I feel like I may enjoy that one a little bit. So, without going down that road too much, I always play the My Career mode.
Yeah.
In the NBA 2K. This last one was a drag, and it was very much like it was very hard to just kind of play from game to game, and you had to go and do all these stupid missions, like, I'm running around run into this building to talk to somebody about my management strategy and being on this radio show, or going to try to win over this dude who's running this convenience store or something. Like, just let me play back. Like, I don't mind that some of that stuff is in there, but don't force me to do it.
Yeah.
So it became really grindy and unenjoyable, and the cutscenes are terrible. And it's...
You're like, I just want to play basketball. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've hinted the way they phrase stuff, and I don't know to what level this is going to be, that I think they're shifting that to more optional again, to where you can just
that's good.
Game to game if you want.
Oh, that's good.
Now, the other reason, though, however, is now I've moved into I'll get the League Pass.
Yeah.
Now, so I bought, because I can't ever like local teams apparently.
Yeah.
So, in order to watch most games of the team I like, I have to do the League Pass to some degree, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the one edition that they do now with 2K that comes with that.
Okay.
And it's cheaper to get that version. Like, that pays for the League Pass, but then you kind of just get the game for free, basically. Or like, at such a... I have to look at the breakdown, but like, if I'm going to get the League Pass anyway, I'll just do it this way, and then I always have the current NBA 2K, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Because I'm going to get the League Pass anyway, so that pays for this.
Yeah.
Because it's cheaper than the original League Pass. So anyway, that's my brief dive into that. So I'm getting that this September, right? So that's kind of a safer, plain choice or whatever. Starfield, which is kind of the biggest new IP that I'll be getting. Cyberpunk's expansion's coming out. So
Yeah,
I'll
Phantom
definitely
Liberty.
get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then we move into October, and we're getting into Mortal Kombat 1, which is a safe franchise for me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Spider-Man 2, which is a sequel to a safe franchise for me because it's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, City Skylines 2 is one I'm interested in, which again, it's a sequel. Like almost everything that I'm going down, it's just sequels, and like there's no, like they're gonna be great games, I feel.
Yeah.
But like Starfield's the one big new franchise that I have interest in.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Like,
there's games out now. For me, like I really want Remnant 2 because Remnant from the Ashes was a brilliant game.
so again,
Brilliant.
a sequel.
Yeah, another sequel for me, and then that's just typically how it is. Weirdly enough, though, looking into September, October, on my wish list, there are stuff like Diablo 4 and things like that, obviously, but that's already out. But like, there are some things that are coming in the pipeline that I'm like, weirdly enough, are like games I've never heard of. Like they're new. There's not. I can't think of all the names. Yeah. But there are some on there.
Alan
Here.
Wake's coming, by the way.
What is?
Alan Wake 2.
Well, yeah, Alan Wake 2, that's coming, which that's interesting because that's, and even that new Alone in the Dark is looking really nice, like with David Harbour, and that looks good, and it's nice to see the kind of return to that. Plus, it's like, there's just different things that are out there, that's coming in the pipeline. I wish I could pull up which actually I can, using the app. I'll kind of throw a couple out there for you so you can see.
Now another
what
of course,
I'm thinking about.
Another existing franchise and stuff, and I'll probably won't get it till I can afford time-wise to play it. But Baldur's Gate 3, I like how that's shaping up. And,
I have
play it on PC. So.
Well, here's one. So, like, I don't know how far. Some of this might be next year, but like some of the stuff that just. Like, I'm really happy that bringing back out Paragon, which was a free-to-play game I played a lot of, and they're doing another one, and I love the first one. But I've got, I've got different ones that I'm interested in, from one called Flintlock to Siege of Dawn, Everspace 2. And interesting about Everspace 2 is the first one is a really good space game, but it's roguelike. So, like, you die and you restart and you eventually slowly get better and better and get further and further in the galaxy. Everspace 2 ditches that whole thing, and it's just an action RPG in space, kind of like a Rebel Galaxy. They're really, like, going that route. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then Helldivers 2 is looking great. Instead of being a top-down shooter, it's a third person now. But there's other ones that are on here that's coming. Like there's one I looked at called Warstride Challengers, and it just looks really interesting. One called the Inquisitor. There's some different ones in here that's new. Of course, I don't know. It'll be a while before Star Wars Outlaws comes out, which I'm all about. But like,
yeah, I'll definitely get that one.
They're doing a new test drive. They haven't made a test drive in a long time. Yeah. So I mean, there's some stuff on here that I'm definitely like.
Not on your radar?
No, not at all. But no, I just
that franchise I think is I don't know. It's liked more than. I think the interest in it doesn't match the quality of game. Like, it's a pretty lame game, I think, those test drive games.
Yeah.
Twisted Metal games. They were cool back in the day, like one of them or two. But, man, they made a bunch of them, and they were kind of like...
I think the last one... Yeah, no, you're right about that. But there's a couple, of course, definitely in the pipeline. I didn't get Bolt Gun, but, like... There's another Age of Sigmar Warhammer game coming out. Space Marine 2 is coming out. And, Warhammer, that's my love. I love that stuff. So, especially them doing another Space Marine, which Space Marine 1 was great on the 360. Great multiplayer, great story, great combat, and enjoyed that one a lot. And I'm happy to see a sequel coming out to to a game that I really loved, and so I'm like, oh, I'm all about jumping back into that. And so, of course, my Warhammer guys, it's going strong, and so there is stuff on my list that's new, like definitely new. But there are like I said, there's Remnant 2, there's Diablo 4, there's stuff there's stuff coming out around October, and of course, you start getting more of the horror style type games that come out. A lot of indie stuff, but the stuff that I showcase a lot on my channel during the spooktacular month of Halloween. So there's going to be some stuff here and there that I'm going to be like, hey, this is new. Let's play something new, give you something, whatnot. So, yeah, you're right though. There is a lot that's coming out, and it's just, there's so much usually, and it's just scratching the surface what we talked about, that you have to really be like, okay, I just got these 5 games, and if I played all of them, it's like 1,000 hours. It's like, shit. Will I ever get around to, you know what I mean? So it's interesting like that. It's kind of like No Man's Sky. You said you got to started on that. I've been playing the game since vanilla, and I still play it, and it's still one of those games that's like, Jesus Christ, you can just play this forever. I mean, forever. So, yeah.
At some point, I wonder, am I just going to stop getting games and then just play stuff?
Yeah.
Am I just going to go to one game and play that forever?
I don't know.
But, I don't know. Games really, I don't know if it speaks more to me or games, but, they have a hard time holding my attention than what they used to.
It's funny that you bring that up. It's funny you say that.
Because, like, Diablo 4 is a great game. I can't really say anything bad about it. But I'm having a hard time sticking with it, though. Like,
yeah.
I'll sit down and I really play. I leveled up my character to, like, I haven't really got into the Paragon levels, though. Like, I haven't that far. I'm not... I don't get as much into the grindy stuff, and, like, I've stuck with the A class just to kind of go through the story and that kind of stuff. And, like, there's times where, of course, when it first came out and stuff, sit down and try to just play it consistently. And I still like it, but I don't know. I sat down and I loaded it up the other day, and I was like, I don't feel like playing it at the same time, so I just went and played something else.
I think a lot of that, I like to refer to it as kind of like game fatigue in a way, where you're just like, you know what, great that they added new features or whatever they're doing in this action RPG Diablo, right? It's still Diablo. It's still what you expect it to be. And great, hey, I got an offhand weapon, and I've got layered armor, I've got all this new kind of stuff going on, but it's still like, I'm still a barbarian, I'm still a necromancer, I'm still a ranger, it's like it's not that you haven't done it before, but you kind of done it before. So it's, what to expect, and you might have some fun with it, but then at the same time, it's kind of like, it looks good, yeah. I'm playing through Olsen, Lords of Mayhem, that came out 3 years ago. That also has, like, predates Diablo 4. It has the one-off hand weapon. You can have 2 different weapons, it's layered armor, and it's got a lot of stuff that Diablo 4 does. And I enjoy playing it. But it's what I expect, out of an action RPG that tries to be like Diablo and all the rest of them. It's really fun to play, but I look at it like, sometimes you get into a game and you load it and you're just like, meh, because it has that sort of, well, I've kind of done this before kind of thing, and I really want to do.
It's not always a bad thing either.
No.
Because because we could say that, and I still play Call of Duty in cycles. Like, I haven't played Modern Warfare 2 in a handful of months or a couple of seasons, but when I want to play it, I want to play it, and I want to play the current, And the same with like NBA 2K. I'm not the guy that I play NBA 2K consistently year round. That's what I play. That's my big game. Like, that's not me. I enjoy it, but I enjoy it when I want to enjoy it. And I think Diablo kind of falls in that category or that style of gameplay, because it's very There's a lot of those style of games, and I think when I'm in the mood,
I've got a slew of them.
NBA, Diablo, or a fighting game or something, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. Like I want to play the current version when I want to play it, but I'll oftentimes feel just, I guess that fatigue of that style of game. So
yeah,
the ones that really kind of hold my interest more are your single player adventures and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to playing the Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
That's coming out.
I tell you, it's
3D action game.
Yeah.
I've played that formula over and over too, but
yeah,
it will feel fresh to me.
Yeah. Well, it helps that you're a fan, too. So, but I tell you, it's kind of like we talked about before in a previous video about the whole, at one point it was like, oh, that's cool, man. Look, they got this big map and open world. It's like, well, they're all open world now. So it's like it's not new, and the thing with that is, it's kind of like this. It's kind of like watching AEW wrestling. Let's just go to wrestling for a second, or even WWE. Let's do both. And you're like, you would watch a pay-per-view or you'd watch a match here and there, and every once in a great while, somebody would be like power bombed or thrown through a table, and you're like, oh God, it was like, holy cow, because you didn't see it, right? But when you see it all the time in every match, it loses like its shock value. It loses like, you got thrown to do whatever. So it's. I think sometimes that can apply to gaming, where you're like, yeah, I've kind of seen this. It's fun, but I've seen it. I've like open worlds. It's like they all do it now. So there was a time when if a game was open world, it was kind of rare, and you were like, oh, that's crazy, right? Like that's that, and wow. And now it's like, well, shit, they're all. Even Street Fighter, which Street Fighter 6 is really good. I'm not knocking it. It's a good game. I really was surprised by its open world. I don't own it, but I played the demo, and I was like, oh, okay. You're going around Metro City. That's back to Final Fight. That's cool. Creative Player was really good. But the point is, even the fighting games are going that direction. It's like, okay. And so I find that, you almost know that's what they're going to do with it by looking at it, and you're like, okay, another open world game, and that's where I think it's the same analogy with wrestling. Like, it's one thing to have Mick Foley go off the top of Hell in a Cell, and that's the first time anybody ever did that. It's another when you see it every pay-per-view. Now it loses its luster. So that's why sometimes it's nice to be like, oh, this game isn't that. This is like a linear kind of style, kind of this, and you're like, oh, okay, so that's where I think some of the fatigue comes in. It's like Diablo 4 is a very well-designed, well-crafted, well-thought-out, very good, really good action RPG, but there's a lot of those. There's a lot of those now. I would absolutely say playing through Wolcen, it's on the same level. It just is. It's because you can tell just by playing it. And then there's other games that with the same formula. Diablo went open world, which is interesting, which I think it needed to. But that, again, a game that was historically more hub-based is now open world. Dynasty Warriors is open world. Street Fighter is open world. It's like, it's almost too much. And now you lose some of its like, hey, a company comes out, our game will be 50,000, it's open world, and you're just like, yeah, and it's like a company can't use that as a sell point anymore, right? They can't.
As far as the the games coming out, I mentioned the one I'm interested in. It's very familiar franchises, and that's really the reason I'm getting them, because I love those franchises. There's a couple new ones, or different kind of things in there, but if you go down like what's coming out, not to knock on the games of the franchise because they're all good, but there's so many I can give a shit less about. Like, I'm looking right now, Armored Core, don't care. Assassin's Creed Mirage, don't care. Payday 3, don't care. The new Crew Motorfest, don't care. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, okay, don't care. even Alan Wake 2. I don't care right now.
You might later. No.
I will want to play that because I like the Alan Wake series, but right now, don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, not knocking any of those games, but it's just, I don't know.
You're not interested.
Don't care. Don't care.
See, like, I'm in the same kind of boat in some instances. Now, I like mech stuff. I have played through Armored Core 4 Answer. I played through some of the Armored Core series. It's very, very customizable stuff. It's from software. They invented that series, and so I'm surprised that they're bringing it back because it's been the last one released. I think was 4 Answer on the 360, which I played a lot of. So I would eventually. I'm interested in it, but not at launch. But also like the Crew Motorfest. There's another one. Here's the thing. So the Crew one. The Crew 1 was great. The Crew 2 was fun, except it had awful rubber banding, and it was very difficult to beat the computer at any given time. If they got up remotely ahead, you were losing. That's it. You had to place first all the time, and it's like, and you could progress like I did a video on it. You can progress the game and rank up with the followers without actually ever driving, which is like the point of the game. I was like, I just took a picture and cameraed out, and I got 50,000 followers, and I ranked up. I'm like, I'm not even driving. So I think they took a lot of missteps with the second one. I like the first one more, and I like the second one.
Driving games for me are kind of weird because I like the Crew as a series. I think it's neat. I think that giant open US and be able to, it was super cool, and to be able to hop in between the plane and the car, like it's neat. But like, I don't know, I see stuff like that, and maybe it's because I'm just not a super big car guy or anything, but it's like, okay, another racing game. How many times have I done that? And I like racing games, I think Forza series is the king of that.
Yeah, Forza is amazing.
Forza Horizon, as far as that arcadey part, Forza Motorsport, I feel like it beats Gran Turismo. You can disagree or
no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. No, I don't disagree at all.
And I was really surprised by the Hot Wheels game that came out. That was incredible.
That was really good, actually. There was they got a sequel coming out this year. So
like, there's it's up in the store for pre-order right now.
Yeah.
There's exceptions and things that really kind of pique my interest in that sense. So I do like racing games, but it's like they're kind of dime a dozen. It feels to me. There's so many out there.
There's a lot, and it's really
maybe it'll be awesome, and maybe I'll see something and be interested. But there's also another test drive that's coming out.
Yeah, and that's on my wish list because it's on my wish list. I don't know if it's this year.
But
the new test drive I'm interested in because the last one I owned on 360 was Test Drive Unlimited 2. And the map was all of Hawaii, pretty much the main island. And they used the year that it came out, the actual map of Hawaii with the houses, it's all real at that time. And it was a unique driving game where you made your character and you could go buy clothing and do missions. And there was something unique about that game, and I just really liked it and gravitated towards it. And I played the sequel to it I owned, and it was good. So I'm interested in it because it's a franchise that was always, it was kind of like the Forza before Forza. Like Test Drive's been around forever, and I had no Super NES Test Drive game, and so I'm interested in that. I'm interested in it because of that reason.
I feel like driving games were more interesting to me before I grew up and drove.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And then so with so many of those, I feel like, okay, the introduction of GTA and stuff kind of took it to another thing. Because, you can drive around in that. And while it's not usually dedicated tracks and stuff like that, but you can get out of your car and stuff. So then when you go back to just a racing game, it does something substantial or something super cool. it's kind of like, okay, I'm driving this car and the race is over. Now what?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
on to
mean,
the next. You know,
on the next race, yeah,
it kind of just becomes very boring and monotonous.
yeah,
However, um, again, I do still like that experience to some degree, and I did end up buying. I think I mentioned like a steering wheel for
yeah, yeah,
Xbox to use with Forza, and I really enjoy that. But
yeah, because it's more
I
immersive,
got
yeah,
it to use with Forza and stuff. But my favorite thing to use it with is Wreckfest. I
yeah,
love that
yeah,
game. I love playing it with that. It's just kind of that fun demolition derby racing stuff.
yeah,
You know, that game's been out for a bit. You know, so there are some of those games that I can really
yeah.
get into.
And I'm into like when you go into racing, like I'm in both categories. I'm like I like traditional racing games. You know, there are a lot of them are open world nowadays, but off road stuff's fun. But I also always, for whatever reason, I've always liked these high speed futuristic racers. I've got a bunch of those. Grid. I've got Orbital Racer, which I did a vid on, which was a unique take on a racing game, and stuff that you're going, you know, speed of sound kind of thing. There's a lot of those. Red Out, Wipeout. There's just a bunch, and I like those ever since I played F-Zero way back when in the day on the Super NES, and so I've been a fan of that genre. So, and I've got a bunch of those. So but racing games for me, it's like I got to like be in the mood to want to play them. I like, oh, I've got a bunch of Need for Speeds. I've got Heat. I got Heat for free. You know, I got Need for Speed Rivals for free. I got Need for Speed, like the last 4 Need for Speeds ended up on PS Plus for free. So I didn't pay for like any of them, you know. So it's like I think the last one I paid for was 2016 when it came out, because it came out around when the Crew came out, and so I just find it interesting that like some of those games I've never paid for. I played Heat. I think Heat's pretty decent, but they basically took aspects of Most Wanted, which is what everyone's favorite. I love Most Wanted, and Carbon, which was basically the sequel to that, and those two games, and kind of combined them both. It's got incredible customization for the cars and stuff, and you can make your own liveries and do all kinds of stuff. So it's pretty decent. But when I played it, I also was like, you know, I don't like the soundtrack. EA just is always puts a lot of indie stuff in there I never heard of, or like because this is in Miami, it's a lot of just music, Latino music that while it's good, but I don't listen to that myself personally, and so it makes sense why they did it. But like as I was playing it, after a while, I was like, you know what, I don't want to play it, you know, and I never really installed it because I was like, it's just more Need for Speed, right? I got into Rivals for a little bit a while back, just something to do, and played it for a week or two, and got fairly far in it again, and I was like, I'm kind of done with it, and then I haven't really played any racing games since. Is that I like those games, but I have to be in the mood for them, and I have to be like, what type do I want to play, you know? But no, I feel you on what you're saying there. When it comes to, you know, September and October, there's just so much coming out. So I think you have to make decent purchase choices so you know what you get into. It's kind of like, I would love to have Diablo. I'm not going to pay $70 for it because I know what I'm getting into. And like it's like Wolcen was $20 and gives me a lot of the same stuff that Diablo 4 does. It has almost the same character features where it's like, oh, I can have a sword in this hand and a gun in this hand. I can have a shield in this hand. I can have a spear in this hand, and oh, I can have a totally two different gauntlets on. They did so much of that prior to that, and I'm like, if I really want like Diablo, I would rather get it when it's on sale, because that way I feel like the intrinsic value to me would be like, I still have Diablo Resurrection. I still have Diablo 3 with everything with it. If I want the Diablo experience, I'll download 3, you know, or I'll download Resurrection if I want the old school experience. Or I love action RPGs. That's my jam because of Diablo. So that's what got me into it, was the first one, and so I don't want to say it's not worth the 70. To me, it's not worth the 70 because I have played something like that or a lot of games similar to that. So it's like, for me, it'd be like, and I know this, I played through Diablo 3 solo and I played with my buddy Richard. There was a night me and my fiance played Diablo 3 with Richard, and it was way much fun to play with people. Like, to have that party, and he was super overpowered and was like power leveling new characters for us, and it was just fun. And I thought, it's fun to play solo, but I think Diablo is a best like shared experience. And I always think about me and you when EDF 5 came out, and the new one of that's coming out, by the way. I'm surprised it's not on the store yet, but a new one's coming out, EDF 6. But I tell you, like, I love playing that game solo, but the time that me and you played like almost every night was just was so much fun to share that with somebody that likes the game. And just, the wing diver, yeah, like overemphasizes, and it's such a great game. So a new one is coming, and I love that series, and it's fun to play by itself. But like when you play with people, I think Diablo is a great game. I think it's really great shared. When you got like the wizard over here doing this on the side and the barbarian doing this on the side, and everybody's doing skills and stuff's being thrown out, and it's much more fun experience. Like I've found that to be true with like Monster Hunter. Like, it's fun to play solo, but when me and Richard are playing it and just working together to take something down, and he draws aggro and I come up with something, and we were playing Wild Hearts today, and it's fun to play solo, but when you play with people, it's a better game for it. And I feel like Diablo, while I think would be a better game to play with a buddy, to play with somebody, in your, two people going through it and just tearing shit up, right? And I think that can be true for a lot of games. Like, I think the random times that I played ESO with you, once or twice here and there, I found it to be a more enjoyable experience because it was people I knew, and hey, there's your character, this is cool, where are we going? And I think that's true for a lot of experiences. But I think when Diablo is concerned, I think the enjoyment factor would go up if you had someone to play the game with. Even if you started, hey, let's start new characters from the beginning, fuck it, and just go through it together, right? And again,
Yeah, potentially. I mean, long term with Diablo, yes. Now, I think it's hard to kind of immerse yourself in story games playing multiplayer.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
They do kind of get into the more serious tone with 4, so I think going to that initial thing, you probably, if you care about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is a long-term,
yeah,
a multiplayer setup thing.
But
I don't think there's a release date for EDF 6 yet.
I know it's supposed to be out, or it is out, or is coming in Japan or whatever. I haven't seen. I know I've
thought about ordering it on PlayAsia just to,
yeah,
to play it. But I know eventually it will come out in the US, but I don't think there's any US
well,
thing yet.
No, I'm hoping. I'm assuming that it will, because they all have, and I love that series. That's my favorite. I have Iron Rain, and I really enjoy Iron Rain. I love 5. I have 4.1, which was just 2025. 360, I had the 3 that were available on that. Insect Armageddon, which is...
I think it's usually like a year later.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's been, I think 8 months to Japan.
Yeah. I even have World Brothers, which I end up really liking. The game's fun, too. EDF is...
I haven't played it, but I haven't.
Yeah, it's really good. It's better than you think it would be, and it's got all the characters from... Yeah, they're good. They're good games. They're really good. I love 5. Me and you should probably sit down, even if we don't do a vid. I'd love to play that again with you. That was a lot of fun. Or even do even do a vid together with it would be fun. Just because that game is a blast. That's the most pure fun, enjoyable games I think anybody can play. I'm actually happy that it's not like, oh, it comes out every 10 months. It's like it's nice to always get into that. And it's the one game that I people ask me all the time, well, why do you like it so much? I mean, it's cheesy. Well, it's supposed to be. It's intentionally made that way. And I said, it's because it's just, you're never going to find a game that's just pure fun. Just, you get in there and it's just like, holy shit. It's like when you're playing it and there's nothing like it. There's no game even remotely. You can't say, oh, this game reminds me of EDF. I've never said that. Ever. I can sit there and play a game that's like, oh, this is kind of like Dynasty Warriors, or oh, this is kind of like this, or this is kind of similar to that, and like this, and another game, like I've never in my gaming history ever said, this reminds me of EDF. No, never. Never, not once. I love that game. It's a great series. I hope 6 comes to the West because I'll be there buying it, definitely. But no, I just wanted to touch base on some of the. I know there's probably some other news stories we could get into. I haven't been following too terribly closely. I know there's been the, unless you want to talk about the cancellation of the PvE content in Overwatch 2, which has got everybody up in fucking arms, and they're just focusing solely on the PvP stuff on that, and a lot of people are not happy with that because they liked the idea of, oh, you're putting a leveling system for each character. It's going to be PvE. There's going to be this story content, because the idea of Overwatch is all these characters in there got together to fight some kind of evil something or other, and instead they just run around fighting each other. So there are and I don't really care much, because I played the first Overwatch and I was like, yeah, it's Overwatch. I preferred the Battleborn, which I can never play again. And then of course 2 came out, and Overwatch 2 was just, oh, you got to buy it. And then a month later, oh no, we made it free. Thanks for your money. So it's very cash grabby. I had no interest in playing that game, like none. Buy this. Yeah. If I want to play Overwatch, I'll play Paladins. I like Paladins. So, but no, that's a new story that's out there. But I watched some videos on it, but I was like, you know what? It's whatever at this point. It's like, yeah.
Well, I think we can probably close out here soon. Before I do that though, I do want to mention, that the expansion for Cyberpunk's coming out.
Yes, Phantom Liberty, yeah, which is on my wish list, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because I love Cyberpunk.
Yeah, Cyberpunk is awesome.
I'm almost not looking forward to it because I feel like I've concluded my Cyberpunk time. Like I would almost rather than just do a sequel than an expansion.
Yes.
With that type of game, I feel it's really hard to revisit once you kind of wrap it up, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're
overhauling some mechanics. They're doing an expansion. I'll go back and I will play the story and stuff, but like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't see me doing like a new game or anything to just experience whatever kind of that.
Yeah.
The changes to the core gameplay.
Yeah.
I did most of the side stuff. I completed the main thing. Like almost 100% of it, other than just some of the gimmicks you can do.
Yeah, because I played through it, and once I got past the Johnny Silverhand stuff in the very beginning, and then of course Jackie dies, which is awful. I still hate that. He's just a great character. It's like then you can just kind of do whatever, and there's all the maps opened up, and you're like, oh, let me go take on. I did so much. Help the PD out and help and get rid of cyber psychos, and I did so much of that. By the time I got back into the story, I was like, shit, I'm like damn near max level with like crazy weapons. I just waltzed through the game like it was nothing. I was like, I was just dead, you're gone, whatever. But it was still such a great game, and I think I was surprised that it was coming to console only because it seemed like at first it was going to be a PC thing only, the way that they kind of presented it. But now it coming on console, I'm like, I would welcome it. I welcome it because it does give me more Cyberpunk, but it's another one of those, like you said, you get to the end of Cyberpunk and you're like, well, yeah, But even if they add more new weapons, new parts of a map, or whatever they decide to do, and there's, different stealth mechanics and the different things are overhauling, and it's nice that might affect the original game too. Um, I'm happy it's coming, but it took so long for the first one to get here. If they're talking about a sequel, we might be on PS6, Microsoft Series X2 by the time that it comes out, and they know. So, but
there will be a new section of the map. It is going to be a new story. And
yeah.
They talk about kind of all like a lot of these improvements they're doing and changes.
Yeah.
They're implementing like a mechanic for like the cyberpsychosis stuff. And,
yeah.
A lot of that's really cool. But again, it's almost like other than the extra stuff, it's like it's a director's cut in a sense, right? And it's like I kind of I love the support for the game, but like again, just kind of opening up the story again, and that I don't know, it's like it's a kind of a love-hate for it, and I would almost just rather do a sequel instead of an add-on. But
I get
whatever.
that.
I mean, I'll get it, but I'm kind of divided on how I feel about it. Because at first, I'm like, oh, that's awesome, and then of course, I concluded the game, and then several months goes by, and it's like, okay, I've kind of moved on.
Yeah.
Because I love that world.
Yeah.
It's not an infinite ongoing thing. As much as I could probably load it up and drive around and fall in love all over again.
Yeah.
With the world, it's like I don't know. Now I gotta reinstall it. Get back
yeah. That's kind of like it's kind of
other stuff.
Yeah. True. Because I've been like I said on my end, there's been 3 or 4 titles I've been kind of jumping in and out of. I've been playing, like I said, I've been playing No Man's Sky here and there. I've been playing the Neptunia Reverse game that came out because I love that game series. And I've been playing Wolcen, and they added 3 new classes to Warhammer Inquisitor Martyr, and they added the Sortis, which are like the sorority sisters. They're like the Inquisitor, like female, like faction or whatever, and they're like, they probably need to be nerfed. They're so overpowered, but like they added all kinds of new weapons and armor and gear for everybody, including them. So it's like, this is cool, and they added all this new missions, and it's neat to see Neocore. They're on season 3, getting into season 4. Like, that's a game that they continuously support, and I was not expecting them to add new classes, let alone 3. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow, I can't believe they added all this content. So, and again, Warhammer, just lots of love for them. So I've been jumping in and out of that, and that's, again, another action RPG. I also tell people, if you don't want to play Diablo and you want to play something kind of on the future end of things, just play Warhammer Inquisitor. There's hours of content there and customization and everything. But there's been 3 or 4 that I've just kind of been jumping in and out of and playing. Desiree's been watching me play through Chernobylite, and Chernobylite's an awesome first-person Fallout-esque type game, and that's such a unique shooter game, and it's great. It's a great game, and I recommend it wholeheartedly. She told me, I'd love to see you play through that. I was like, okay, so I re-downloaded it, and I didn't realize I got an upgrade, so I have a PS5 version, so it looks even better. So it's like, wow, this is really awesome. In performance mode, it looks good, plays 60 frames, it's great. So there's been stuff I've been jumping in and out of, because I feel like, though, it's the calm before everything comes out. So I'm trying to like play through stuff, and some of the stuff I haven't completed. Like I haven't beat Wolcen. I'm trying to get to the end. I haven't beat, Neptunia. I'm like halfway through there. I'm like trying to I got to get some stuff finished, or at least close to it before you know what I mean? It's like I beat Gotham Knights like completely, 100%. I'm on New Game Plus, and I leveled up. You can level up 10 more times, to get the max level and get more points and unlock everything. So like I went through Gotham Knights entirely. So I'm happy to say that, hey, I completed it, so, and that was one of my favorite games. So I don't care what people are saying about it. and the gameplay looks similar, I will probably get Suicide Squad because it seems similar to me, and that looks really fun to me. I'll probably end up with that one because it looks kind of Gotham Knights. It's not no Gotham Knights may not have sold well, and people are unhappy. We talked about that, me and you on a vid, but it's like I think Gotham Knights was an amazing game, amazing game. I love it. It's one of my favorite, probably new games that came out, and I'm just still shocked because it was basically like the Avengers at launch. If Avengers launched the way that Gotham Knights did, it would have been a better game. And even though I love Avengers story, they went to live service with it. And Gotham Knights is like, yeah, we're not doing that. You can unlock armor. There's no in-game anything, microtransactions. I thought Gotham Knights was awesome.
Squad that has me concerned though is, it is going to be a live service.
Yes, I know. That got to me like thinking, what, a year from now, I'll never be able to play it again? I'm hoping that that's not the case, but I don't think they should go that route with that, because when I first saw gameplay and who you could play as, I'm like, that's kind of Gotham Knights in a way. I was like, I might get into that, but then I'm like, then live service, I'm like, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. So, I don't know. But that's kind of where I'm at. There's some stuff in the...
Before I commit to that one. On one hand, I want to, I planned on getting it from the get-go, and it's Kevin Conroy's final go-round as Batman.
Yeah.
So, it's cool for that, but I want to see more, especially here in that live service.
Yeah, because so far, the hard thing with the live service thing is it's all about content, and content is will kill you. And if you are like, okay, this is our roadmap for the live service, and the roadmaps are always bad. It's always like, okay, 5 months from now you'll get this. I'm like, well, 5 months is a long time for me to wait for something to come out for me to play. 3 months is a long time. And you're like, because other stuff is coming out like right around the same time, or like a month later, or even weeks later. So you're like, you cannot, because the big thing with Avengers that I'm sad about is because it got squashed, and the last person they added was Winter Soldier. I was like, okay, I finally got pretty much the movie Avengers roster at this point. I was like, but the next three characters was going to be Captain Marvel, was going to be Doctor Strange, and was going to be like Falcon. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome, So I was like, so they were trying to get more or less what we see in the movies put into the game, and it never happened, and it's not going to happen. So I'm like, that sucks. Doctor Strange would have been awesome in that game. That would have been a really unique character to play as, or Captain Marvel, she and her flying abilities and energy powers, and just like the way they set it up. And instead, we got two Hawkeyes and two Thors. We got girl Hawkeye and male Hawkeye, and we got Jane Foster Thor. But the funny thing is, I immediately, when the free skins became available, put her in her Valkyrie outfit. She uses a mace and not a hammer. And while the playstyle is similar, at least it's her Valkyrie character, because after Jane Foster died in the comics, they made her a Valkyrie, and Valhalla is a chooser of the slain. She's Valkyrie. So I'm like, I just put her in that, so it's like having a different hero, So, it's kind of funny how I was like, no, I'm changing her immediately. That skin's free. I'm done. So, that kind of helped out with that. But no, the live service is going to be very tricky because no one can get it right. No one has gotten it right.
Like Suicide Squad's going to fall on its face. Is the way I feel.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't know. We'll see a little bit closer, but the problem it's going to have while it's Rocksteady, whatever, the...
Okay, wait a minute. Is it Rocksteady making it or WB?
No, it's Rocksteady.
Okay.
It's the actual Rocksteady one.
Okay.
Gotham Knights was Warner Brothers, the...
Gotcha.
Whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's a Rocksteady one. So, it's got potential. I mean, they know what they're doing, but people don't tend to get behind these live service games, and I think gearing up to it, I think we'll be able to tell whether it's going to, not that it's an accurate judge of games, but with that style of game, I feel like when you start seeing what the social media platforms are saying about it, you're going to be able to tell if it's going to suck or not, like
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah.
Because, like it or not, legitimate or not, perception with this gaming community makes or breaks live service games.
Oh, it does. It totally does.
I think getting close to it, if people find something, they latch on something and start shitting on it, it's going to kill it. And,
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? The video gameplay of it that they showed, where they're like, oh, there's this mechanical thing, and I shot this purple thing that was its weak point, and this happened, and they were showing various gameplay footage. It was much downvoted. People were like, that just looks like some bullshit, like guns, and people were not happy with it. And I'm like, you see, Rocksteady is great, and what they've made are single player outings with Batman, but it's still single player, no multiplayer, nothing centric to like this. This is new for them. Yeah. And this could also be the people who worked on Arkham City may not even work for them no more, right? So it's Rocksteady, yes, but you can't. I look at it like it's kind of like people. Oh, it's a new BioWare game. Yeah, half the people who, right? Because like people don't realize this. Like at Arcane Studios, that made Redfall that failed. What people are like, yeah, but I don't understand because Arcane knows how to make games, and they made Dishonored and Dishonored 2 were these great games, and they make good stuff. It's like only 5 people that worked on Dishonored worked on Redfall. Everyone else was basically that company, but new, right? Yeah. So it's like...
Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it does.
It does. But if you think about it that way, it's like, then you can't say, oh, Arcane developed it. They developed it, but the people who worked on those games that were really loved and were really well received, there was only 5 of those people out of like 300. So you're like, yeah, and it's a live service game. So it's like, so I feel like I'm with you. It's going to be that perception, and because people are now at a point where they hear that and they cringe, and then they think about like, oh man, is this going to be like another Avengers? Is this going to be another like Babylon's Fall? Yeah. Is it going to be like
whether it is or it isn't, it's going to get lumped into that. And,
right off the bat.
And then it's going to kill it.
Yeah, that's why they need to be really careful before that game launches and leading up to launch, even if it's a year from now or even into this year. Rocksteady, if they're smart, they're really going to have to say, really just come out and be like, look, we understand. And I know this is probably uncharacteristic company. We understand. Live service seems like a bad word. We want to change your mind. We want you to feel this is what we got going on.
And to be honest, for me personally, I think either way, I'm going to not care about it.
Yeah.
Because of that. Because, because I feel like the only way for live service games to be successful now, it has to be more about the platform to where you can easily put in content. It's so fun, like Fortnite, for example, right?
Yeah,
that's the most successful model. But it's more about the moment-to-moment gameplay, the multiplayer shooter aspect, and and then they introduce all these skins, and then they update the world for every season.
Yeah,
it's very easy for that to have longevity. But where Avengers failed, where this is probably going to fail, where Anthem failed, it's a live service model centered around single-player type of gameplay.
True.
Even though it's multiplayer, it's story content, it's missions, and that stuff takes a long time to build.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't think you can keep that up in the time frame that you need to keep it interesting for people to play it over and over.
And live service games, what is worse about it is it's one thing for a Fortnite, which it's free to play. I can earn enough in-game coin to always have the battle pass, and never have only had to pay for it once. I know people who still play it 5 years later and only ever bought it once. And the thing is, and they don't force and they don't force you to buy the skins. And the thing is, though, what's really bad about something like a Babylon's Fall, Avengers, this new one coming out, if you think about it, is like, it ain't free. They want $70 up front.
Yeah.
And then you got to worry about, is there going to be a lot of content? And do I have to wait for this content? And if it fails, I'm out $70. I can't get a refund. And you're like, yeah. You know what I mean? You're like,
Yeah.
so when you have
Well,
to
and
pay
see,
for it, yeah.
with the Suicide Squad one, I think if it's going to be one of two ways. Either it's centered around missions and story stuff, like kind of how Avengers was, where you
Yes.
play through it and then you get bored and you're done, or
Yeah.
it's not going to be about that, and it's going to be more about the
Yeah.
co-op shooting type of generic
Hmm.
experience, and then I'm also not going to care
It's also
because
open world.
it's shallow,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like with that game, as much as parts of it interest me, I kind of worry that I'm not going to care either
Hmm.
way.
Yeah.
But I'm open to it being, changing my mind and
Yeah,
seeing.
and I am
We'll
too
see.
because I really enjoy Gotham Knights, and I know it's a different company, but it's like some of what I watched gameplay wise, and I'm like, that kind of reminds me of that, and I had so much fun with that game. Um, I hate the fact that Gotham Knights didn't so well because I thought it was great, and it's still one of my favorite superhero games from DC. You know, like I love the Avengers game, but it's sad that it took them basically shutting down and giving me all the free stuff and doing things to make it good. So to make it, we're like, I love this game now, and I always did like it, but like I really like it now more so. So I look at it like, if this is going to go that route, Rocksteady really, really, really needs to say, hey, look, you know, this ain't gonna be like the other ones, but if they trickle out content at a slow pace, whether they're adding, because Suicide Squad's not just 4 or 5 people, there's lots of people, right? So it's like, are you going to? And the original gameplay was already downvoted because it looked like just everybody's just shooting, and there's nothing else, and it's open world, which is fine, and you're fighting machines, and you're like, okay, well, Avengers, you just fought machines. There was virtually
Yes.
no villains. I'm like, you're almost going down this weird like route again. So I think people are going to be very cautious. I have a feeling, I'm with you, I will be very surprised if it's successful. And the problem with Rocksteady putting money into it like that hurts them if it's not, and could potentially like cause them to not make anything for a while. I think even the company recently, the company put out Golem, I think folded. So it's like, because
Yeah.
it was
I'm
awful.
optimistic about it because,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe this is the wrong perception, but the perception I have of it already is, they announced it for like a while back, and
Yeah.
I'm sure the COVID played a role in it, but like it was up, it was so much it was on the store, I think it was a pre-order even at that point,
At one point.
and then there was a delay, and then yada yada yada, so like if you're having trouble putting out the main content, what's the roadmap going to be like?
Yeah. That's a good
You know,
point.
and maybe that's the wrong way of looking at it. Like I realize you got to have a good solid infrastructure, and the core gameplay takes a long time to do. But like, all those things, it's concerning when live games rely on new content.
Oh, it does. No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. But no, that's good to talk about that because I think live services, they keep trying to throw things at the wall to make it stick because the potential of it is so great. Not just from a
Yeah.
money standpoint, but from like, wow, I got this game and I'm playing it and playing it, playing it, playing it, playing it, and it's like, and it's just awesome. But no one's been able to find the right formula, the right mix, and unfortunately, because of that, they've stained that word forever. And so now we're like, oh, it's going to do that now? Oh, shit, right? So it
Yeah, I
already
don't
has a
know.
bad start.
It seems so simple. I don't know. I don't know why it's not. It seems very, very simple on how to get it down. Because you got to look at like realistically, just how long these games take to develop,
Yeah.
and you can't make these AAA level games and support it with frequent content without massive studios and budgets and stuff. So like, I don't know. I think if you're doing something like Diablo and you have seasons, that's
Uh huh.
one thing. That's sustainable. Call of Duty with its seasonal content and map pack and things like that, that's sustainable.
Yeah.
Fortnite, the way they do it, I think you can do it with fighting games pretty easily because it's all
Yeah.
about the core gameplay is always there, and it's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
introducing new elements and constant fine tuning and balancing and stuff. But when you get into story type of content and missions and things like that, it gets really
Uh huh.
tricky because
It
the
does.
development time gets way out of hand. And half the time we're in today's world, we're barely putting out content on a on-time schedule without delay. So
No,
what
that's
makes
true.
anybody think they can keep up with a live service game at that level?
Yeah,
It's
you'd
just
almost have to have the company making it and then a separate whole unit just working on the content at the same time. So when the game comes out, they got all this other stuff backloaded and ready to go that they can just put in there. So it's like, okay, here's our roadmap. In 2 weeks, you'll get this character. Hey, on week 4, you're going to get this. Because they already have it made. But that's not what's
yeah.
happening. They're making
But then
everything and then start on the content after the fact. And that's why roadmaps are like, hey, in 3 months, you're like, well,
and
three
you got to
months
be
from
careful
now,
with that too,
you
because
know,
that's what people want. But then people also don't want it because then it feels like you're holding stuff back from the main release,
that's
and
true.
people hate that.
Yeah, so it's
So
tricky. It's tricky. It's very
yeah, I don't
tricky.
know. That's and that's why I think to on a certain level, games have gotten too big for their own good. In a sense, it's
Yeah.
um, games are meant to be fun. Not every game has to be multi-million dollar franchises and this big media extravaganza. Like I
Yeah.
love that experience too, just
Yeah.
the same. But uh, you know, speaking back to how I talked about before with the indie game movement and simple, and EDF, that's a very basic level game that's amazingly fun. So like, I think if you're gonna do live service, you either have to have a great mechanic that you can add into
Yes.
that's on a sustainable level, or I don't know, I'm having trouble with that word tonight.
Hmm.
Or a basic game that you can churn out much quicker. Like if
Yeah,
you
I
had
agree.
something EDF style, right? Like you can churn out EDF stuff, no
Oh,
problem.
easy.
Basic textures. It's not, like it's just these missions with maybe new
Hmm.
monsters and
Yeah.
creatures. Like
Yeah.
I think if you had like an EDF style game that was a live service, that would be successful.
Yeah, I think it would work only because it's easy to put that stuff in there. EDF to
Because there's no
me,
cutscenes really.
no,
It's all
not really. No,
in-game like text and yelling
and
and stuff,
talking and
and
yeah,
it comes with hundreds of missions. So like, you
yeah.
could just continue to add missions, and
That's the
you
thing
know,
about that's the thing about that series. It would work in that sense because it would be easy to put the content in there, and I mean it's already content heavy. Like for what you pay for that series when the game comes out, I mean you might pay 50 for it, but you're getting like 100 missions and like a bazillion weapons and like crazy amount of like enemies, different types of enemies to fight, and then it just gets crazier and crazier as you increase difficulties, which gives you better weapons, and just it's insane
and the
the
core mechanic
amount.
hasn't changed much over the
No, it
years.
hasn't. It's basically all the same. I mean, they've added some, like in Insect Armageddon and Iron Rain, which is the sequel, which is the Western like story going on versus the Asian story, which is like the rest of the other EDF series. I mean, other than an active reload and a little bit different seriousness with Iron Rain and Insect Armageddon, they still have maintained the exact same style of gameplay. And I just find that series is so like it came out, had a small cult following, and just blew into this thing where people love that game. And most people that I introduced to the game that's never played it end up just being like, I gotta go get this. This is great. So it's
Yeah.
such a fun
And the
series.
funny part, of course, there's lots of weapons and things like that. Typically, I'll kind of find what weapon I really like to use or what two weapons I like to use, and I'll just stick with that the whole
Pretty
game
much, yeah.
because I like it, and get the newer version, that's more damaging, whatever. So like, it's weird to me that continues to stay fresh and fun and never gets old.
Yeah.
Like Avengers for me, it gets very monotonous after a while, and like I need the variety to make it fun.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I got bored of that after a bit once I completed the campaign and stuff. So
Which was the best part of that game? The campaign was amazing. Yeah.
So I think like EDF at its core level is really fun. It's not about like I said, super high quality worlds and ultra HD textures and these killer cutscenes and stuff like that. Like I feel like again that would be a perfect game for a live service type of thing because it's sustainable.
Yeah.
You can churn out content very quickly if you wanted to.
Yeah. And the other thing,
I feel like the game's gonna have the wrong approach. I think if they did something like that, it would
yeah, it's kind of like you got to make the live servers work for you and not against you. And I think live service games could be a thing and a successful thing. It's just right now, because so many different companies have tried it and failed miserably, fell right on their face, that people are just like, oh, it's a live, like it's a bad word. They don't even want to, because you're already having an uphill battle at that point, right? And so like if you announce Suicide Squad as a live service game and people were like, yeah, downvote, like they don't even think you can do it. And Rocksteady's probably, you got to think there's probably sitting around at Rocksteady people going like, oh shit, like should we do this? Do we want to do it? Yeah. And they have to commit, and hopefully it works.
Is another example of a successful one.
Yeah, they did really good with that. It started out as a game you had to buy. It's free to play now, but I remember seeing it in stores, like for game price. So I was like,
I bought it a couple times.
Yeah, so Rocket League is.
I bought it for Switch because it was so much fun.
Yeah, and Rocket League's just a simple formula that just works, and I think that's what, like you were saying with EDF, it's a simple formula, and it works, and anybody can play it. Anybody can pick up and play it. There's nothing like Rocket League. You play one match, and you go like, okay, that's how you play it. There's nothing else to it. So yeah,
it's so fun. I love Rocket League.
Yeah, it's a great game. There's a knockoff Rocket League that just came out on the PlayStation Store. I don't know if you've seen it.
I think I did see that.
And I was like, that's Rocket League. That's weird. I don't know why some other company decided to basically make Rocket League. I was like, okay, just play Rocket League. So yeah,
and,
I know.
They release their content and they do all this stuff, but like, you don't need to buy. I could still just load up my original thing with the cars that I had when you bought the game, and I could.
It's still fun, yeah. So yeah.
Now, and it'd be really
yeah, it's just as fun. You can get into that. It's easy. Sometimes, the old saying is true. Less is more, and sometimes keep it simple, stupid. There's no reason to get insane with some stuff if it's not needed. And I think developers out there that make some really high-end games that are trying live service or trying to monetize or trying to do whatever they're trying to do would do them a service and look at like an Earth Defense Force, at a Rocket League. Why do people why are these player counts so high all the time? Because it's simple. Even going back, let's go all the way back to Call of Duty, and then we can end it, after this. Call of Duty, yes, you have the pick 10, you have this stuff, but its UI, and for all of its beautiful cinema and graphics and sound play, if you just strip it down to when you're playing the game, it's literally click a stick, shoot, a button here to do this. It's simple. Anybody can pick up. They might not necessarily master it or be like get 1,000 kills, but they can instantly get into it because it's simplistic in its general design, its UI, its interface. It's easy. This shoots, this runs, this ducks, just throws a grenade. It's like it's not. They took but they made it well over a period of years. They have refined that, and so the game is still basically the same. R2 is shoot. This is that, but it's more refined. And so they didn't change. Where you started seeing Call of Duty slip was when they're like, oh, this, you can run on walls, and this is your powers, and this is like, okay, now I'm using like every button on the controller. I'm fucking hitting like L1 and R1 down to slam the ground, and so what am I doing? This is not. COD always had that very simple interface and a simple way of playing, just like EDF, just like Rocket League, just like that. I would love to see, even though COD's kind of its own thing because it does have that AAA like budget, but they never really went too crazy with it, and the gameplay is still what it is, and so they kept it easy to get into. And so I wish other game companies out there that are trying to get all crazy, go back and look at these other games. You don't necessarily have to copy them, but they keep a high player count because of its ease of getting into, and it's easy to play, and it's easy to pick up, and it's easy to get sucked into and play and be like, wow, because there is that learning curve. There is some there, but it's gradual. And so I wish other companies do that. Now, you talk about From Software, that's a whole nother can of worms, because what they do is on the opposite spectrum, but like they're successful because that's a niche thing with them. And we could go into a whole nother hour worth of From Software shit. We won't. But I'm just saying that sometimes it's like with EDF. Sometimes you just want to play EDF because you don't need all that. You don't need it. You don't need all that craziness.
I think if anybody cares to make this a whole gamer happy, and if you want instant success on your hands, I think live service, you would do great with an EDF style of something that's a live service game. Or the other thing I think would really work, and I want to see it anyway, is some type of new version of Death Row.
That was a great game.
Xbox. I think if you did some type of violent combat sports thing, it will be successful, because we're missing that right now.
No, we don't have that. We don't have an NFL Blitz. We don't have. There's something coming out similar.
Yeah, it's a little bit like arcadey over the top, coming with some NBA or NFL All-Stars. It's that hot. It's in the store right now for $3.
Yeah.
That's coming, but it's still it's not so much on the violence part of things.
Yeah.
I would love to see again something along the Blitz the League caliber, Death Row caliber.
Yeah.
Some type of violence infused sports experience.
Yeah, and the closest you're going to get is it's turn based. Though is the problem is Blood Bowl, and while it's fun to play, it's a strategy game more or less. It's like if you could just play it, Mutant League Football or whatever. Yeah.
But it's it's been out a few years. And
yeah.
I don't know. It's not on anybody's current radar.
Yeah.
But I think you'd have a success right now with an updated like Death Row kind of thing, because it's screaming for a remaster anyway.
Yeah, that game was great. That was an unsung, one of my favorite games.
Blitz the League, because of that whole, the performance enhancing stuff and the injuries and stuff. So I think if you did like just something, like with that competitive kind of team against team thing, and you integrated the violence in there, and you have Blitz the League elements, like, man, that would be so good.
Yeah, I would love to see that again.
And that would be a good formula for a live service stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
And people love it because people love violence.
Yeah, they do. They do. They do. They absolutely do. It's sad to say. I mean,
there, and it was such a killer game.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that needs to happen.
And it's good to say that because, it was like the space genre was dead, and then it had this big resurgence, and came back with your Rebel Galaxies, your No Man's Skies, your just a bunch of Elite Dangerous, which I love. Elite Dangerous is so much better on the console now. But like seeing that resurgence, no different than RE4 coming out and kind of survival horror kind of came back, and then it kind of died again, and it came back again with remake of Resident Evil 7. And it's like Capcom leading that charge, like, okay, we're going to change it up again. And so like that kind of what you're talking about, that needs to come back, because it's like that's a genre that's been untapped for so long now. Like that could be a big deal, and so I would love to see that. I would love for them to see that, just because they just don't have it. And I mean, there's a couple indie things out there that's like Laser League and some other stuff, but it don't have that player base, and it doesn't have like that same kind of appeal. And I would love to see that. I would love to see another Death Row. I'd love to see something that's different, and I think people are wanting different. And if you do live service, that would be probably the way to go, is using those type of games for that.
Yeah. And, you know, that game, I've talked about it a few times
Yeah.
on here, but, you know, I loaded it up not too long ago on Steam Deck
Yeah.
to play it, and it's still so much fun. And I love the fact that you don't even have to play the sports part of the game. You can just beat up the whole other team.
And win. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, you don't actually have to, and you can do that in that mutant league football thing that's out too. I know I played through the game and I killed all the quarterbacks in that team, and the game was over. I was like, okay. It's like I win. And that game is actually funny because the commentator is voiced by the guy that did NFL Blitz, so that's interesting. Oh, really? Did you? Oh, that's wild. That's wild. You met the commentator. That's wild.
Yeah, he was at the Arcade Expo that was around here.
That's neat.
I got his autograph, took a picture with him.
That's so cool.
But,
that's so cool.
It was so funny because I'm around there playing pinball games and stuff, and the whole time he has this little microphone and he's doing his NBA Jam sayings.
Oh, that's great. He's on fire.
Because I'm walking around and you just hear in the distance, boom shakalaka.
Yeah.
And but it's not from the game. It's him.
No.
He's a funny guy, and he's a big ball of energy. But yeah, I got to meet him.
That's cool. That's really neat. Well, man, I think we should wrap it up here on this episode of the Gaming Roundtable. We've talked about Rockstar's, and maybe you think it's insane pricing, or maybe you don't. We talked a lot about Call of Duty and the Activision Microsoft thing, because that's big news. It's really big news. It's probably one of the biggest news stories in games. We talked a little bit about the live service, because that's a thing that's been failing miserably, and we'd like to see it be. And I'm for it being successful, but so far, but caution to the wind on the Suicide Squad. I'm not trying to knock the game, but Rocksteady, you got a lot of work cut out for you, and if you're going to win people over, because people are already not liking it, and the game's not even out. So I mean, that you're already like hurting yourself there.
Here's
and
the thing, speaking to all of those points real quick, I really, I want things to be successful. I want stuff, but like I kind of think the gaming industry needs some chaos for a little bit.
Yeah.
I would like to see some of these larger things catastrophically fail. I would like to see Xbox shake it up with Call of Duty. Like, I feel like a lot of companies, a lot of studios, they're becoming very complacent, and they think they got this cookie cutter formula figured out, and this whole stale experience they're shoving down everybody's throat. And sometimes there's some really great AAA blockbuster games that are incredibly solid, and it's a great experience, but those numbers are dwindling, I feel. So I almost think there almost needs to be this kind of big catastrophic failure within the industry to like wake all these people up and get them creating again. I don't know that ever happened, but same thing with the movie industry in a sense. I feel like if enough things fail, we're gonna go back to the drawing board in a sense, and
we're gonna allow for more creative freedom, and
Right, yeah.
Which is why I feel like that lends credence to the last few years, the indie game scene has been massively successful, and it's interesting to see AAA developers going like, I don't understand, I don't get that. People shouldn't be into that. No, we are, because they're doing things right because they have the creative freedom to do that. They're not being pressured to put live service, microtransactions, blah blah blah, battle passes, whatever. They don't have to do that. They're just making games because they love to, and that's a good point.
Doesn't necessarily make a good game.
Yeah,
games are meant to be fun, and we had fun back in the Atari Commodore 64 days.
Yeah.
Shitty graphics and and it was technology limitations at the time and stuff.
But still,
there's core good gameplay there, and again, I love how things evolved in some of these experiences. But I don't know. I feel like we're going to reach a breaking point at a certain point, and maybe this is it now.
Yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe down the road, we'll say
some of the stuff that's coming out.
Well, I tell you, and again, and we touched base tonight, folks. If you stuck with us that long, or if you decide to watch this video on Unpaid Gamers on YouTube.com, we do these table talks because it's our unfiltered, unbiased opinion on stuff. Me and John have similar. You would hear us talk and think that we are always on the same page when it comes to our thoughts about games. We not always are, and that's a good thing, though, because we're not mad about it. We talk about how he feels, I feel, we get different points of view, and that's what this is about, is two like-minded gamers and that have different tastes in games, obviously, but similar tastes, and we both have agrees and disagree on different things over the years, and we just come together for this table talk because it's important for us to you all hear about how we feel about the news, because we're not paid to do any of this. We do this for the love of it, and so the stuff that we talked about tonight might be old news to you because other YouTubers may have covered it, but they're covering it in a way that helps them make their money, and we're going to tell you, we're going to be straight with you about how we feel about something. If we say something basically is a turd, it's a turd. I mean, that's just how it is, it's unfiltered and unbiased. So but that's what the Game Roundtable, that's what Unpaid Gamers is about. It's about giving you that point of view, and that's why we talked about live service tonight. We talked about the Microsoft Activision thing, how we felt long-term and short-term. John made great points about where it could go. Strangely enough, I'm in agree with after the 10-year deal. I think it should just stick with Microsoft, period, and Sony's out of luck. I'm not saying that, poor Sony, because Sony just put out another God of War and make $300 million. I mean, it's not like it's going to really hurt them. It might a little, but in the long term, I don't think it will. And I think it's important that Microsoft doing this is like shaking, like John, you just said, just shaking things up. And I think it needs to happen because too many developers now are complacent. They play it too safe, and they're not changing enough up. And it's kind of like it's like, oh, hey, they're putting out new Assassin's Creed. Yeah, and who cares? It's going to literally play like Assassin's Creed. They're not going to. I don't care what they say. It's not going to be different much from the same formula they've been doing. So why? I'm not going to spend the money on it. I'm not.
I thought the Odyssey and Origin and stuff was cool concepts, and but yeah, I see Mirage and I see just Assassin's Creed, and I'm sure to be a solid experience, and it kind of goes back to the feel of the original game, which I think a lot of people are excited about, or to actually have the assassin type of thing, whatever people are talking about. But to me, it looks like, okay, who cares?
It's Assassin's Creed. I've played it.
They're doing a Black Flag remaster, maybe?
I've heard that. Or
something. I don't know, reboot, whatever they're doing.
I mean,
But, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like Assassin's Creed games. They just always churn them out too quickly for me to keep up with.
Yeah. And the last one, Valhalla, while I love Viking stuff, but I'm like, it wasn't. Okay, I still have a hidden blade, but it really wasn't about the assassins at all. So it was like, you kind of lost me there on that one.
I like that
You
they
know.
did that stuff, though. I think that's cool to explore those kind of things. I think
Hmm.
that was neat. Well, maybe it should have been called something else. Maybe not. I don't know. Uh, I'm cool with what the path they've taken, but I kind of feel like that franchise is kind of fatigued a little bit. And I think I don't know. That's just my take. Maybe people are just waiting for this next one and counting down the days. But for me, I feel like, and a lot of people like it too, but I feel like it's kind of like Far Cry. Like, okay, there's another one. I haven't played the past 3 or 4. It's cool
Yeah.
you're doing them, but I don't know.
And I love Far
I
Cry,
don't play those.
but I'm also like in the same boat where I'm like, if Far Cry comes out, hey, cool, new Far Cry. I know exactly what to expect.
Yeah,
Ubisoft has a formula in the way they make their Far Cry games, just like everything else, and so it's kind of like I I'm not expecting. I know that the tagline right now for the next Far Cry is called Far Cry Beyond, and supposedly it might be on another planet, like space Far Cry. But even if it is, it will still be some space map with icons everywhere, with the same type of a formulaic mission approach with buddies, and it's going to be basically it's Far Cry in space. You know, it's like, so what? I mean, it's not that, and I love space stuff, but I'm like, I would know exactly how the game's going to go. So it's like, it's not that I don't
it'd probably
care.
play similar to Assassin's Creed and Watch
Yeah,
Dogs.
yeah, and all the other stuff that they, yeah. So it's no different than, so that's the whole thing. It's like,
Put
not to
Star Wars on
go,
it though. I'm in.
yeah, 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 no kidding. We got Outlaws coming out for that, but no, but anyway, to wrap it up for tonight. Um, Again, John, I really appreciate you joining me here on the Gaming Roundtable, and I appreciate you giving all your input, man. Any final words or thoughts?
He was talking about unpaid gamers and stuff, and I have to look. Um, I'm sure it doesn't seem that way when you look at views and followers and things like that. But unpaid gamers has been around in some form or fashion for like around 15 years now. You believe
That's
that?
wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I think go back to 2011, Geek Squad and all that. Yeah, been around in some way, shape, or
Yeah,
form.
I
I
have
thought
to
about
look
it.
up and see. I'm sure I could find out when that really started.
Yeah, I can go all the way back to it had to be around that 2011, 2012 kind of, if you ask me. And I tell you, that's incredible. Actually, it's like a milestone, if you ask me. Plus, someone was asking me, Desiree's grandpa asked me the other day about my vids, and I said, you know what? I thought about it. I said, God, I think I made my first video when I lived at mom and dad's place for a while, the year before I came to Bardstown. So I was like, God, have I been making videos for like 6 years? I mean, have I? Have I? I don't even know. I didn't, so it's hard to say. And I had,
And unpaid gamers is tricky, because again, like you look at views or followers and stuff, and like it's nothing really. But it's also, I don't consider myself a content creator really. Like it's just a
I don't,
hobby here
yeah.
and there, and it's something that I've touched on for a little bit. I'll leave for a little bit. I don't care if you watch it. Don't. I don't give a shit really. I don't know why I even do it. Maybe just for it's just some fun here
Yeah.
and there to have. But unpaid gamers though has also been across lots of different platforms and formats, and
Yeah.
it originally started with the website and doing articles and reviewing games that companies would send us and stuff, and then it migrated into like covering events and that kind of thing, and then it's now really it's kind of just a periodical thing with these videos and stuff.
Yeah.
So like many different forms over the years.
I think that's great. I think you thought that's at 15 years. It's a long time.
Yeah, I have to look and see. But definitely, at the one time, the height really back then, we had it was like 5 or 6 people writing articles, and like
Yeah.
it was like a big team. We were doing events
Yeah.
around town.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe some level we can, there may be some new life brought into it, like to that level again at some point. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I know this. I'm
But
happy to be a part of it. So.
yeah, I don't think it ever just go away completely, because why would it?
Yeah, no kidding. This has been going on forever. But and the thing is like I always tell myself that I really would like to get into a more regimen of doing a video every night or 3 nights a week or trying to do stuff. But like it always seems like when I make the plans to do it, write stuff down I'm going to do, it's like whatever goes on, So it's like shit. I got this going on, or I was sick, or I got work, or got this going on and that going on, and so it's just life, So you want to do more. I still would like to get into a daily, nightly formula where, like, hey, on Monday it's Monster Hunter Monday. Friday's Friday Night Fights. I play some kind of fighting game. Monster Hunter Monday, I play some kind of Monster Hunter game and get into like a rhythm of doing it all the time. But my stuff seems sporadic, and then of course it's streamed. It's like, good God, I just found out tonight. My Saints Row video had no audio. My Wolzen had no audio. I was like, great, I did like videos on that, and I got to redo them. So it's just one of those things where I hope that I would still like to do more. I just don't. It's not that I don't have the drive or to do it. It's just I always seem to have a lot going on, or at least stuff going on where I don't get the opportunity, and I feel weird doing it during the day. I like doing it at night, so it's just another one of those oddball throwback things. When I first started doing it, I always did it at night, and I started out doing it like right after midnight, and so it was like after midnight, I played the song, and that's how that started. But no, I think it's great. Unpaid Gamers, you've been around for 15. I've been a part of it for a couple years now, and I'm happy to be part of it. And so and whatever subscribers we have or followers on the various networks, I very much appreciate it, and I'm glad that anybody views it or gets something good out of our videos, whether it's one person or 10 people. We do really appreciate the views. And speaking of which, if you please and subscribe to Unpaid Gamers, you can check out the content. Post-Human Guy, he's been a little light on the streaming lately, but he's been busy. I'm in the process of moving, so I've been busy. So, but we are still putting out videos when we can. Of course, you can always check out the Man, the Myth, the Apex Legends of Ban Losses, old Apex videos, Legends videos, because he's still a great player, and it's a lot of good videos and fun content there. Check out Post-Human Guy's car thoughts and his Let's Plays and playthroughs and stuff that he's been doing. And of course, please subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to Gaming Roundtable, and you too can become a official Knight of the Round Table, and that's always good. You can email me also if you have any suggestions or would like to see a game being played at gamingroundtableupg@gmail.com. That's all one word, gamingroundtableupg@gmail.com. And again, subscribe to Unpaid Gamers. Incredible enough, been around for 15 years and still going strong in one way or another, and that's incredible. And that's a testament to both John's love of this games industry. Sometimes we loathe it, but we love it for the most part, and my love of it. So again, we thank you all for the years of dedication to the ones who have subscribed. And John, again, thank you for being part of the Gaming Roundtable and coming in here and talking tonight and giving your thoughts and opinions. They were very, very informed, and really enjoyed hearing them.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. We will come at you again with another table talk, probably next month or so. There's always news. There's always stuff to discuss. So, and we'll come back with you. I will be having to redo my Saints Row video and my Wilson video for you now that I know what the problem was. So I can talk to you all a little bit about that. And you can hear my thoughts on that. And there's some other, of course, there's games coming out. We got Broketober coming and September coming, so it's going to be crazy. And of course, Gaming Roundtable will be bringing you the spooktacular month of Halloween. Every night, a horror game with video. John, definitely feel free to jump in on like you did last year to help me out on some of that. That was a big help. And again, special shout out to my fiance Desiree. She came up with that, and it's been I've done it 2 years now in a row. I'm looking forward to this third year, so we can play some horror games and scare the bejesus out of myself. And I'll be bringing you some horror games. Hopefully, I'll have some new ones, some indie stuff. It seems like indie horror is where it's at, so we're going to get into that. And that's the highlight of my year is eating some candy corn and playing some horror games, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And that's what we got going on. That's all we got for you tonight, folks. Again, subscribe to Unpaid Gamers on YouTube.com. Hit that like button, hit the bell, get those notifications anytime that we go up live or we upload a video. That way you can stay in touch with us here at Unpaid Gamers and on the Gaming Roundtable, of course. And we will see you on the next episode of the Gaming Roundtable. And as always, gamers, good gaming.